Hello, everyone. Welcome to another
Hello.
edition of the Age Show.
But yes, we
Uh,
are here again.
yes. 1 second while I fix my topic.
Yeah, we're not talking about Genshin today. I have thoughts, but that is for another day.
That is indeed for another day. Alright, so let's get right to it. Today we are talking about Final Fantasy, but specifically Final Fantasy 16 Hype, and also we're going to finally give some of our thoughts on Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker, as we
Oh
have
yeah.
wanted to do that.
Yeah, because I got some thoughts. I mean, I think a lot of people who have played 14 have some thoughts. Some good, some bad, some in the middle, some crying. Name an emotion, it was probably felt during Endwalker.
Endwalker was a treat and a half, that is for sure.
Yes, but before we get there, we got some news recently regarding a new game. Have you seen the trailer?
Yes, as previously mentioned, we will be discussing Final Fantasy 16 Hype,
Heck yeah.
and
Um,
yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Admittedly, we don't have a ton of information on 16. We have a general idea of the plot based on what we've seen. We know some characters. We've seen the summons. They have revealed all the summons, apparently. Um, which is interesting. I find it interesting that the summons seem to be a focus this time around, rather than just being like an extra combat option.
Yep. But before we dive in, it is time to introduce our first segment. It's going to be literally our opening segment that I am literally just calling Question of the Week.
Yeah. What's the question this time?
The question of the week, we are sticking to the topic at hand, Final Fantasy, and we are specifically asking, what is your favorite Final Fantasy game and why? For those that end up seeing this VOD later, don't worry about it. There's going to be a tweet as well asking the question on the Age Show Twitter, and I'll probably repost it as well. Well, retweet it on my personal account.
Oh yeah, I'll retweet it myself.
So, Jess, I will let you start while I get the tweet out. What is your favorite Final Fantasy game and why?
Well, I think this is where I have to throw myself under the bus. As much as I say I really do like Final Fantasy, I have admittedly not played many of them. I did play like 98% of Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. I lost the boss fight at the end, and I did not have the strength to do it again. Um, I've played the demo for the Final Fantasy VII remake. I played a teeny bit of 10. I've seen a lot of gameplay for 13. I obviously play Final Fantasy 14, and I did play all of 15. That includes the DLC. All of them. Well, not all of them. The only one I didn't play was the Arden chapter, which, you know what, I might have to talk about the issue with 15. And then obviously we haven't played 16 yet, but I am 100% on board for playing this game. Um, but if I had to name a favorite, I kind of do want to say 14. I'm aware that that might be a bit of a bias, considering it's really the only one I've been playing. I've been playing it since halfway through Stormblood's life cycle, around the Under the Moonlight patch, which I think was 5 or 4.3. Um, my brain's hurting. I can't think. But I mean, but even then, like, I've had a fun time playing it. It's a little rough at first when you're handed all these different dictionaries and manuals and terms and you don't know what's going on and no one helped you. You figured it out on your own. I managed. I got through things just fine. I could have been better. But even then, I've had a lot of fun with it. I've had fun memories. I've met cool people. That includes you. We met in Final Fantasy XIV.
True that.
But if I had to make another case, I guess I would want to say 15. I'm aware that it's got a lot of shit on it because, especially with how they handled the DLC, um, which honestly might just have to be its own talk because I could talk for days because I think it was stupid. Half the game was basically not in the game, and that was kind of frustrating. And it wasn't just like, oh, haha, here's a little extra character development. No, it's like critical, important, plot-related shit, and they didn't put it in the game. So aggravating.
Also, yes, real
But
quick.
also,
Hello, Zoe. Welcome.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even pay attention to the chat.
I mean, I typed it too, but even still.
Okay, but no, hello, Zoe.
Anyway, continue if you have more to say.
Oh, to make it brief, I will give one true positive praise for 15, and that is Ignis. The character Ignis.
His jawline,
Ignis.
though.
Oh my god, this man is attractive. I hate it. See, it's funny because I never thought I'd be like into it. I guess. I mean, I don't see myself as being thirsty for characters really. I try not to be, just because like they're fictional. What's being thirsty gonna do for you, right? But even then, like, he has good character. He goes through interesting things. He's British, questionably, which is interesting. Like, he's basically the mom friend, but, like, to the extreme, because he could also kick ass.
Indeed.
Would you not agree?
That's the thing, I do agree.
Good, I'm glad you agree.
Yep.
But no, I do like 15, but admittedly, I do have a hard time holding a case for is it really the best.
I mean,
Sorry,
that's understandable. Yeah, don't worry, I have my water as well.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Alright, so
oh no,
is that
my cats.
sufficient enough?
Yeah, sorry, I'm watching my cats.
Nice.
If you hear meows, I'm sorry.
Nah, it's fine. We welcome meows. Just cause. So, alright, I guess that'll bring it to me. So, whenever I decided this question, sticking to the topic of Final Fantasy and everything, and asking what is favorite Final Fantasy game, you know? I was like, personally for me, I wanted to not include 14 for me, and I also wanted to keep Final Fantasy VII Remake out of the scenario as well. Just cuz. So basically, if that's the case, then the games that I have played are Final Fantasy 1, 3, 5, 7, 13 Lightning Returns, and 15. And personally, like, I'm playing Final Fantasy 3 right now on our stream, on my stream rather, and basically going through the game again for the first time proper in over a year, I think. And like I said before, I never actually finished it, but I knew what to most likely expect because of Final Fantasy XIV. Because the Crystal Tower series raid in Final Fantasy XIV, the Crystal Tower was originally in Final Fantasy III specifically. So I feel like I have some sort of connection with Final Fantasy III, just based off that alone. And seeing character names that I saw in 14 that I did not know yet because I never played 3. And then I went back and saw the names and I was like, oh, man, I feel like I have a connection here. And personally, I love more old-fashioned Final Fantasy, turn-by-turn based combat, and how the magic is set up and equipment is set up and everything like that. So, while here's the thing, if I was to put Final Fantasy XIV on this list, it would have to be Final Fantasy XIV. I've been playing the game for 8 years or whatever now, something like that. It's a long time. I've been playing since The Realm Reborn, like probably patch 2.2, 2.3. So I mean, it's been a while, but I don't want to include that. I don't want to just say that's my favorite. So personally, I think I will go with Final Fantasy III, just because I played it more than Final Fantasy 1 or 5, for instance. I have played 7, but like, I knew quite a bit about 7 already before I even played it, because I played it so late in my life.
Yeah.
To be fair, I played Final Fantasy 3 later, but even still, I've actually played it through almost to the end properly. So I enjoy Final Fantasy 3 for what it is. So
Yeah, I mean,
that's my answer.
I don't have anything against older games on the principle that they're older because hey, I mean, if it ain't broken, why fix it, right? It's a good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yes.
But admittedly, a lot of things I definitely it's kind of a hit or miss with me. Like I don't mind if a game doesn't have great graphics or great like appeal, like UI design or whatever you want to call it. But it definitely, if I'm on the fence, that is kind of sometimes what is like it might be a make or break deal. But that's not to say that like I'm saying Final Fantasy 3 is bad. It's just not my tastes.
All right.
Plus
But
it-
that pretty much concludes that, though.
That's true. Yeah, I mean I'm just rambling now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically my thoughts on my favorite Final Fantasy. Admittedly, I need to play more Final Fantasies. That's basically what this is telling me.
Yep. So, again, if you want to answer to the question yourself, it is out there on Twitter now. So feel free to leave the question. If you haven't played Final Fantasy, still, say whatever your thoughts are about it, potentially. It's up to you. But,
Yeah.
with that out of the way, we will move on to the first full topic. We are going to be talking about the hype around Final Fantasy 16.
Oh yeah. Which a lot of speculation was going around, I know at first, regarding 16 because I think everybody who is, I would say, semi-far into any kind of gaming, specifically with Square Enix games, knows the person Tetsuya Nomura. I'm gonna also go ahead and say if I say any of these names wrong, I'm sorry. I don't speak Japanese. Regardless, everyone's heard of Nomura. Admittedly, a lot of people like to blame him for the recent decline in some of the Final Fantasies, specifically with like 13 and 15. I think because I don't know what he did in 11. That was an MMO. I know Jack about 12. Although it did get recently more ported to the Switch. He's pretty much was behind 15, and I don't know too much about what he did in 13. And while he did do a little bit in 14, he is not one of the main people. He just assisted with a raid line quest, and designed a character for it. But it's interesting that from what we have seen of 16, Tetsuya Nomura doesn't seem to be majorly involved. Like, he's not listed as one of the people. He's not the producer, not the director, not the character designer. He's none of those.
You know who is involved, though, that we love very much as 14 fans?
I don't know. Who could it possibly be?
Our Lord and Savior, Yoshi P.
Yes. I believe he's just the producer.
Oh, yeah.
He's not the director and producer like he is on 14. He's just the producer. This man needs a break.
I don't know. Yeah, he actually looked pretty good in that 16 video.
Yeah, like he actually looks like he got some rest. He looks he doesn't look like stress is weighing him down, which is great because admittedly, especially with the whole pandemic thing, which we're not getting into, we all know about it by now. Obviously, issues have arisen in everything, including gaming, and it delayed things. It it caused things to not happen. Server overloads. Can't get any components for their consoles. All this stuff. So, understandably, very stressed man. Please give this man a vacation. If not, then I'm gonna go fly over to Japan. I'm gonna take a sleeper dart and I'm gonna whack him with it and be like, "Nope, you're going to sleep." I will tranquilize this man. That's not a threat, by the way. Please don't get me in trouble. Please don't get me in trouble. I don't want to actually threaten anybody.
Right.
Please don't. But
regardless,
no,
the point still stands.
Yes, he needs some rest. Make sure he gets plenty of sleep. Regardless, so it's kind of, I don't know if it's very obvious with some people, and it's okay if it's not, but it's pretty clear from what we've seen of 16 that Nomura doesn't seem to have any hand in these character designs. Like, Nomura has a pretty particular way of making characters, and none of these seem to follow that.
Thank the heavens.
Older character designers. Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. Nomura's created some great designs before. I'm not trying to shit on him or anything. Like he has done some great stuff. But more recently, if I'm allowed to ask a quick, very brief question, what is the worst Final Fantasy, and why is it Strangers in Paradise?
I don't know anything about that, so...
Oh, good! Don't worry about it.
So yeah, you know what? I just won't touch whatever that is.
It was a good idea, bad execution. That's all I got.
Sounds about right.
Anyway,
So yeah.
But no, it looks very good from the two trailers that we've seen.
So basically, what I personally want to touch upon is this is something I saw from someone's kind of reaction to the trailer and whatnot. He's like, Yoshi P is friends with like some specific people from like Capcom and stuff like that, I guess. And some people feel like they got some people from Capcom to work on 16 because of certain aspects. Like the combat in particular, with just how clean it looks. Animations, and also whenever the weapon is actually like hitting enemies a certain way, how it slows down. Very small detail, technically, but massive impact, in my opinion, because Capcom has worked on certain stuff, like Devil May Cry, which I get to play.
Like, honestly, it looks a lot like Devil May Cry 5, which was a banger from what I saw. Admittedly, I've never played a Devil May Cry game.
Admittedly, I haven't either, but to all you that might be curious, I have Devil May Cry 5. I purchased it. I will eventually stream it. It'll be my first DMC game.
DMC Devil May Cry, hell yeah!
But that will happen one day.
Yeah. By the way, don't play DMC Devil May Cry. We don't talk about that one. You could play Devil May Cry 5. That one's okay.
And also another thing related to Capcom, Monster Hunter. And like that's one big thing too. Whenever hitting, like in Monster Hunter, whenever hitting like a very specifically meaty part of an enemy, the way it slows down and whatnot, that feeling is exceptional, because you really feel like, oh yes, I'm fighting this big, meaty, beastie thing here.
I think the thing you're generally talking about is what most people, especially in fighting games, call the hit stop.
Oh yeah.
Like you feel the impact. But no, yeah, even from the little bit, even just the effects kind of remind me of some of the stuff that you would see in a Devil May Cry game, like just with all the flashy colors and effects that are like around you based on what you're currently using. Obviously, in 16, they're going to be a bit more elementally based because of the summons. Because I remember there was like one shot where I think they were using Garuda, I'm assuming, because it was green, and generally Garuda is wind and green. And it's like this weird spirally thing where like you're in the air, and I was just like, oh, that's so cool. You could do air combat. That's so cool.
Yeah, there's air combos and stuff like that. But yeah, they are switching between summons, which is a great idea with how it's set up. It's what Final Fantasy 15 should have been in terms of trading in and out these different ways of fighting and mixing combos with it. It's very nice.
Look, as much as I try to make a case for 15, the combat is honestly one of the weakest things in 15, because you literally just hold the buttons. You don't need to press them, you hold them, and you're doing combos. That's kind of boring.
Literally, one of my favorite things to do for XP grinding, though, in 15, after getting the Ring of Lucius, literally, you could just go fight the giant Adamantoise, which is like level 99 or something like that.
Yeah, it's like right outside that gas station, right?
Yeah, it's literally right outside the gas station, and you could just fight it over and over again, and you could just use the Ring of Lucius and just literally drain the Adamantoise of its life essence, and it eventually just dies at like 30% HP or something like that. Maybe lower than that, but
I've never tried that, actually, because I'm aware that they did some adjustments, but I think they like increased what the ring does, because at first it was so bad and people complained about it, so then they patched it, and now it's too powerful.
Yeah, like, again, I was literally able to just do that. Basically, there's these 2 points that are really close together with the Adamantoise fight that you can just hop between, and you can replenish your mana with a certain, like, trait or passive that you can get in the game by jumping between points. So literally, you would just go to one spot, use the Ring of Lucius till your mana was 0, teleport your way over, basically, to the other spot, and it would refill your mana, and you would just do that back and forth, and bam, XP grind. Super easy.
I just never did do it. I did it the hard way, which is by punching things in the open.
But anyway, we're not here to talk 15, we're here to talk 16. We're just saying 16 is going to be a way better 15, potentially.
To be fair, if I'm allowed to mention maybe another point or so of interest, is obviously they have some of the big main summons. I can't speak today. I'm so sorry. But they have some of the main summons that are, classic staples. You have Garuda, you have Ifrit, you have Shiva, you have Ramu. They brought back Odin, which I don't actually know how common Odin is. I guess he actually is pretty common, but he's just not in any of the ones that I've ever seen or played.
And that's the thing. I don't know what all ones he's in. I know he was a summon in... I don't think it's 3. I think it's 5, if I remember correctly. It might actually be both, because I know I've seen Odin. Odin is in 13, but he's actually a good guy in 13.
Oh yeah, I remember, because he's a lightning summon, right?
Yes, something like that.
They have different names.
Not necessarily summon per se.
It's like your guardian. It's your JoJo ghost. It's
kind of like a guardian deity of sorts. I don't. It's been a while since I played Lightning Returns, and I've barely played regular 13 games. I've seen some stuff about 13 games, but I don't really know much else about it.
But yeah, so Odin's there. Bahamut, of course, is a classic. But the thing that two things interested me personally regarding the summons. One, I don't think Leviathan is there.
He's not.
Which is interesting. I don't know why. Maybe that might be a plot point. However, the thing that also interests me is, in my personal opinion, I do not know a single game that has Phoenix as a summon on the same level as, like, Shiva and Ifrit and all of them. I personally don't.
Well,
so the fact that there's 2 fire ones is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and to be fair, with the ending of the most recent trailer that we did get for Final Fantasy 16, how there's the whole thing, I don't know who the guy is that's talking, but it's like, awaken child of fate, awaken Ifrit. he says it weirdly. And there's 2 Ifrits. There is literally 2 Ifrits fighting, and I'm like, how does that make sense?
Well, you sure it wasn't Phoenix?
I don't think it was, because based on the reaction I was watching and breaking down the trailer, it literally looked like a second Ifrit. You'd barely see it, so we could be wrong. But it definitely was not Phoenix, because Phoenix is a lot brighter fiery, while Ifrit's a lot darker fiery.
Oh yeah, but even then, like, from what we've seen, it's pretty common in this world that, like, I guess there's different kingdoms, because this is kind of set more in, like, a more older fantasy, like, universe where, like, there's no, like, technology like smartphones or Wi-Fi. This is, like, medieval times almost, which is interesting. We're going back rather than staying in the present.
Because fantasy is so much more interesting.
Yeah, like, I like that idea. I like that. It's very fascinating to me. I guess it's common knowledge. Like, I guess there's all these different kingdoms, and each kingdom has, like, a person who can turn into the summon. I think they're referred to as the dominant or dormant. And each person, like, each kingdom has one, but they don't mention one about Ifrit, but there is a Phoenix. So that might be like, hey, maybe there's a reason.
Yeah, there probably is.
So I am very interested to see why is it Phoenix and not Ifrit, when I think it should have been Ifrit should have been the normal one, and then maybe Phoenix is the weird one.
I mean, it's hard to tell.
I don't know, but even then, that's interesting. It looks good. Main protagonist, I don't remember his name. Great design. I like it. A little generic, but I like it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, most protagonists, especially in a Final Fantasy, are going to be maybe slightly more generic looking, but that's not a bad thing.
Oh yeah.
Just have to keep that in mind. It's not a bad thing.
Also, like, even just some of the character designs, like, I like how they're, like, normal. I like how they're not crazy wild. It's very obtainable. You could definitely find someone like this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Also, someone over here I saw on Twitter, admittedly, it was one tweet, someone was trying to make a comparison regarding Shiva. Because for some reason, I don't know why, Shiva has always been depicted as a pretty scantily clad woman who controls ice. Usually she's like icy blue colored, or, you know, she's got an ice theme, right? I don't know why she's always scantily clad, but I guess that's the irony of using ice. Plus, I think if you control ice, you could just wear whatever the hell you want. Obviously, the new Final Fantasies, each Final Fantasy has their own designs for all the summons, and there is one for Shiva. Someone was trying to argue that the new Shiva looked terrible, and I was like, well, in my personal opinion, I'm like, look, I'm not saying put clothes on Shiva, because it's a classic, it's whatever. They were trying to argue that, like, because it's not Tetsuya Nomura's design of Shiva, that it's objectively bad. And I'm like, well, you can like his better, but if your only reason for hating it is because it's not Nomura's design, then you are stupid. I'm going to say it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just not, there's not really an argument there besides, oh, it's not so-and-so's design.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. You can like that one. It's okay. But if that's your only reason, I'm sorry. That's absolutely stupid.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense, basically.
It doesn't.
At the end of the day. But as far as designs and animations and stuff like that are concerned, especially related to the summons and, in a way, deities, because they basically are, stuff's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Oh yeah, like, I like them. Everyone's simping over Garuda, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, apparently. yeah, she has a feminine figure, but that face.
She's still like a crazy bird monster. Like, she's going to kill you.
It's just don't get me wrong though. Again, she looks awesome. They all do.
Oh, she does. She looks amazing.
Titan looked insane.
She looks similar to 14's Garuda.
Similar, but that face is definitely the biggest difference.
Oh, 100%. It's more feral looking, which is appropriate. Garuda is usually depicted as like a feral bird creature who just wishes to do wind-based destruction.
But yeah, the fact that we have Bahamut and Odin too, though, I think is actually incredibly cool.
Honestly, it's interesting because I don't know much about Odin, and I would like to see what they do this time around. This talk has just become about the summons.
That's the thing, though. It's Final Fantasy 16 hype. There's not a whole lot we can discuss. All we have is combat, summons, animations. Like, that's all we can really talk about.
I will say I saw something kind of interesting. If you give me a second, I have it on Twitter. I gotta find it.
Alrighty.
I just want to. I mean, it was basically like a list of like, oh, these are all the people that are like the main team working on 16. And I think I lost it. Did I get rid of it? Why are these all my bookmarks? Oh lord. But it was basically one thing I saw was that, you know, obviously Yoshi P, or Naoki Yoshida is his actual name, is the producer. Someone else is the director. Koji Fox is the localization lead this time, as he is for 14 as well. But the music composer is actually Soken, the same person for 14.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I be liking this music actually, and I'm like, oh, of course, it's Soken.
Of course it's Soken.
Of course it is. Really good music composer. I think I read something once, and it was only once, that he may actually hold a Guinness World Record for number of original songs in a video game.
I believe it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because he pretty much writes all the music in 14, and he looks like he's going to be doing it for 16. This man's got quite a track record for creating music.
100%.
Anyway, but no, now that we've mentioned some people on, regarding 14, do you think that's a good segue to talk about Endwalker?
1 second. I'm
no.
thinking.
Unless you got a thought.
I just wanted to kind of quickly touch upon again that, like, Final Fantasy 16 is going to be great. And I'm saying it now, I think it's going to be fantastic. I like the fact that it went back to a pure fantasy aspect versus this modern day kind of thing that 15 did. Because personally, I think it makes more sense. It looks better that way. Also.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, the fact that we have people from the 14 team literally working on this game, like, that automatically gives us some bias, and I get that because we love the 14 dev team.
Oh, yeah.
That dev team deserves everything. Like, I'm so glad earlier, I think at the beginning of the year is when it was, maybe at the end of the year, of last year, whenever 14 actually won, like, best ongoing game and, like, best community, I think.
Yeah, like, it actually won some awards, and it's true.
And
the awards are
people,
but even then,
and people in the Fortnite community were pissed. I'm like, shut up.
Oh, yeah.
Shut up, you freaking children. You kidding me? This dev team deserves it. Fortnite just steals ideas and then makes it their own.
Like,
that's right, I said it. Fuck Fortnite.
Okay, I will say this. On principle, I do not hate Fortnite. Like, I like the idea of a more kid-friendly shooter. Because, you know, kids want to play Call of Duty, but admittedly it's a little bit more mature. Make it kid-friendly. I like that idea. Why did it explode in popularity? As someone who worked at GameStop, I was so sick and tired of hearing about Fortnite. Oh my god, I heard it for years, because I worked at GameStop for years.
Yeah, anyway, look, I just said fuck Fortnite, but at the end of the day, play what makes you happy. Like, at the end of the day, if it makes you happy, you enjoy playing it, play it. At the end of the day, that's your decision. Do whatever you want to do. But me personally, I'm just like, the dev team for Fortnite and everything like that, while they still are definitely working hard, like, the game still looks great. It has fun stuff, animations that are all nice and everything like that. Like, I'm not gonna diss everything about Fortnite. It's just the fact that they do stuff.
Community.
To be fair, the community sucks, but at the same time, the dev team still needs some flack. Because, again, literally some game modes that they've done is literally just straight up taking an idea and then making it their own. They did that with, they're literally called this imposter mode. You couldn't you couldn't try to think. Yeah, it's literally a game mode that was like Among Us. Like, you couldn't.
Oh my god.
You couldn't think of anything more clever. You just decided to take this small indie game's idea. And by the way, Among Us came out years ago, and it just decided to all of a sudden become popular because a few popular people decided to play it, and it took off like wildfire.
Oh yeah, like, I like Among Us, but admittedly, I only like playing Among Us if I'm actually playing with people I know. It is horrible to play with people you don't know.
Yeah. But alright, this is branching a little too far away from the topic.
Yeah, sorry. Again, not to shit on Fortnite, you are allowed to play your games, but just know that I'm never going to play Fortnite willingly.
I will say this real quick, though. I did like the idea of taking away the building aspect, because they did take away the building aspect, at least for, like, this season. And and then basically you can, like, parkour and stuff, so, like, buildings and everything like that. There's a sprint that's, like, a lot faster, and you can literally parkour over stuff, but there's no building. You can't build walls and stuff like that. I'm like, I'd be more willing to play Fortnite if that's what it was constantly, because it takes out some of the sweat.
Oh yeah. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Fortnite. We're here to talk about Final Fantasy. Let's go.
And we're segueing. Whoops.
Yes, sorry, that's not a great segue. But no, we do want to kind of talk about Endwalker. Now that enough time has passed, I think it's fair to talk about anything that's in base Endwalker. No 6.1, just 6.0.
Yes, and this expansion was... What do I really say?
I mean, I don't want to sit here and, like, try and, like, over-exaggerate it or anything, but honestly, it was good. I actually genuinely enjoyed it. I was
love it.
definitely not expecting the turn that they made. because, you know, obviously they've revealed trailers about this, and obviously they reveal some information like, hey, these are the new zones you're going to. You know, we're going to Labyrinthos. We're finally going to Faenir. You're going to the moon. You're going to Garlemald. And yet, they hid 2 whole zones from us. Usually they only hold 1. But by the time you get to, like, level, I think, like, 83, you've gone to all the zones that they've revealed to you, and you're not even halfway through. And it's like, whoa, wait. Where are we going? I genuinely was like, wait, hold on. We're on the moon.
Not to mention, since you bring up level 83 in the moon and whatnot, and we're talking about the initial expansion of Endwalker. So, like, yes, again, we're gonna have spoilers just because if you haven't played it, do not listen. Plain and simple. Because we're here to get like our own thoughts and whatnot out there. We may not discuss every little bit of detail, obviously, but one thing I want to mention is since you bring up the moon, you bring up level 83. I cannot believe that look, I expected we were gonna fight Zodiark. I did not expect it to be level 83.
I was like, what? I was because also, you know, you're talking about Zodiark, you're on the moon because he's like sealed in the moon for some reason. And you know, you get there. Oh my god, I legit was like, you know, I wasn't processing it until like the boss music kicked in, and then it's like the dark within, or dark inside. That's what it's called. The arena's called the dark inside.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wait, this is a trial? Like, I was like, okay, this could be an instance. And I was like, oh my god, the first trial is Zodiark?
Yeah,
I was
again,
so confused.
And here's the thing, like, as well, just to go ahead and get out of the way since we're talking about trials, I fully expected we were going to be fighting Zodiark and Hydaelyn. I didn't expect it to go specifically the way that it did, because going into Endwalker, like, they're bringing up a bunch of stuff of just like, do you trust Hydaelyn? And it's like, you know what? I don't know if I do trust Hydaelyn.
I don't either. Like, I was literally like, I don't know if I trust her anymore. Like,
personally,
true, maybe she's.
Personally, I still had faith myself. That was like, yeah, she should be good. We'll be fine. We just got to figure out what her motive is, like what is going on.
Yeah.
Which we did.
Yeah, we did. And oh my god, oh boy. Okay, so actually, I think one way that we could probably go about this is, I think we should just go from the beginning, not like tell the story, but like for each part of the story, because obviously you kind of go in each of these in chunks. Like maybe what was a personal favorite that you experienced in each zone, maybe?
Like a personal favorite, maybe situation, cutscene.
Yeah, like
maybe.
Moment, funny moment you had maybe with someone.
Okay, so immediately right off the bat, whenever I think about that, Labyrinthos, I can't remember his name. The bunny, the dark-skinned bunny boy that we meet.
Eredale.
Yeah, Eredale. There's a time and place where we get turned into a frog with Alphino and Alize because of Y'shtola.
Reasons? Because Y'shtola can just do that, apparently.
Because Y'shtola can just do that. And basically, we're trying to eavesdrop and figure out information and whatnot. This is literally level 81. And so, literally, you, Alpha Toad, and Ali Toad basically follow Eredale to... And then he's talking to some people from, oh god, what are they called?
The forum, right?
The forum, yes. Like, the first thing I can think...
Charlian.
Yeah, the first thing I can think of is the council, but I know it's not the council.
They are the council,
but it's basically a council. But basically, you're just eavesdropping, and after they finish up talking, Eredale starts walking back, and then he just looks to the right, and there you three are as toads, frogs, whatever. You do a head tilt ribbit, and Eredale's just like, basically just like, I know it's you.
Yeah, he's like, oh, well, there's your information, and then, like, you know, he starts walking off again. You poof back to normal, and you're like, wait, how did you know it was us? And he's like, you can't fool an expert. That's my job.
Yeah, basically it's like, how about you learn the real thing?
That was real. Also, can we just talk about Eredale for like 2 seconds? Like, hot damn.
Yeah, and also I don't know who. I actually should look that up. Like I don't know who voiced Eredale. You know what? Give me a second. I wonder if I can figure that out real
like
fast.
he's he's a really dark skinned. I'd actually honestly say he is literally the color black, which is perfectly cool. He's got dark hair. He's got yellow eyes, which I think is interesting. And I'm like, ooh, you are very handsome. But then again, all the Viera are objectively beautiful.
Oh god, I don't know if I can say this man's name.
Except, let's be real. Whoever decided to do the goatee thing on the male Viera, good idea, not a great execution, personally. You can use it, of course, but it doesn't look right with the aesthetic that they're trying to go for the male Viera.
Yeah. So the voice of Eredale in English is Ari Askarson. I'm not saying that right. And if you're curious about Japanese, it's Rikuya Yasuda.
I don't think I've ever heard of a Japanese. I imagine he has a quite.
It doesn't matter. I felt like I should at least say the Japanese VA too.
Oh yeah, of course.
Even if we don't listen to the game in Japanese ourselves.
Personally, no.
But yeah, I messed up that man's name hard, so I apologize. But good job to that person.
Good job, Eredale's voice actor. I mean, if I'm allowed to mention something about the Charlian adventures that you have, I do like how one that scene absolutely funny. Two, I like how they're basically like, hey, we need to kick you out of Charlian because you are snooping in information that you shouldn't be doing, and they were like, okay, they eventually come to a decision, like, okay, you know what, you can stay, because, it technically is your home base now. Obviously, in each expansion, you kind of have, like, a home base that you go to every time. So, you have to have a reason to stay there, right? So the reason is, no, we're gonna let you, but you basically can't move. You're, like, under home arrest or something. Even though you still move around, that doesn't do anything.
It's basically we can't do anything in Charlian.
Like, we can come back to Charlian, but we can't do any business in Charlian. I guess would be the best way. Obviously, at the beginning, you are given the option to investigate what's going on with the Forum in Charlian, or go to Faenir. I think everyone's favorite moment going to Faenir was probably literally going to Faenir.
Oh yeah, easily.
Because the whole part of like, okay, well, normally to travel between Aetherites, you must interact with the Aetherite, right?
Yeah, you must be attuned.
Yeah, you have to attune to the Aetherite in order to go there. But the problem is, how do you go to an Aetherite you've never been to before? So you do an experiment, and it's how you get to Faenir. Obviously, you are expected to attune to the Aetherite there, because, how else are you supposed to get back, right? Turns out you could actually talk to that lady in Charlian for a much cheaper fee, and you actually could go to Faenir if you're already in Charlian. I learned that on Twitter. But, like, obviously everyone, because it's, to people that go to Faenir, it's you, Fangrid, Urianger, and Justinian.
However, Astinian has already been to Faenir before, so he's already attuned to the Aetherite there.
Yeah, so he was perfectly fine, because what turns out what happens is everyone got a teensy mild case of violent ethereal sickness.
And then right as we're teleporting, she says that, and Fangrid goes, wait! Or what? And reaches out, but then just gets teleported, and it's like, uh-oh.
Everyone's like, you get there, everything's fine, you all kind of get, like, nauseous and all collapse. Urianger manages to hold on for, like, 5 more seconds, and then he just fucking just lands on the ground.
Yeah, and then literally the next scene, Fangrid's just, like, laid back on the bench, kind of sprawled out, holding his stomach. We're kind of sitting there somewhat normally, but definitely in pain. And Urianger is just, like, in a fetal position.
Like... It's the greatest cutscene. I'm like, yeah, Endwalker's supposed to be, like, this deep, dark end of a story, and here we are trying not to throw up our guts just because we decided to be seasick for a bit.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's the same thing with, any other expansion, really. Like, they always have their funny joking moments, regardless of what the main story actually is going to be.
Yeah, but I think the only funnier part is, obviously, Estinian is fine, because he's already been there. And he's just like, oh my god, y'all all look horrible. I'm gonna go get you something to maybe help your stomach. And he walks off. And then Fangrid kind of turns to you and he's like, hey, we had a note when we were coming here. We need to stop him. He is horrible with spending money. He will overspend. And you're like, no! And you have to get up and very slowly go over to him.
Yeah, and then basically every few seconds, you'll get a flash on your screen and your character's like, stops for a second.
Like, what? And then eventually you get him to stop, and then you continue your adventures there. But that honestly was probably my favorite. I think everyone's other favorite moment is when you get to meet the Sartrap of Razat Han. Actually, because the Sartrap is actually not this Al Ra dude. It's a dragon.
Yeah, which is sad. I cannot remember the Al Ra dude's name, and I feel bad.
It's Ahawin.
Yeah, Ahawin. Probably not saying it right, but
yeah, I think that's how they say it, but or Ahawin, I don't know. But yeah, that guy who actually was really cool. He wasn't there very long, unfortunately. Unfortunately,
we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, but yeah, I think everyone's other favorite moment is actually meeting Vitria, one of the dragons of one of the children of Midgard-Sormr.
Oh yeah, Vitria is a bro. Vitria is awesome.
I love Vitria. Vitria is the best.
And here's the thing: we're not going to be talking about 6.1, but I was going to say this real quick. I want to help this dragon man.
Please help this poor baby dragon, even though he's definitely years old.
Thousands of years old. My goodness.
I have a problem with calling people that are like way significantly older than me like my baby child.
Right.
To be fair, he does have this little boy who acts as one of his eyes because he has one of his eyes in him. He's like a fake body created to kind of keep the guise of like I don't know. He's someone who helped. It's his eye on the ground because Vitria hides because people don't actually know that this dragon is actually the ruler of Razat Han.
But basically, Vitria has one of his eyes in this simulacrum, is what it is.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what it's called. Who uses? Okay, for real. Who uses simulacrum casually?
Dragon, apparently.
Whatever. Regardless, yeah, because that's what this boy is. The boy is Vitria. I forgot the boy's name. No, it's Varshan.
Yeah,
Varshan.
Varshan.
Is the boy. Varshan's the boy.
Also,
I like the idea that the boy has his own name.
Yeah, he does have his own name. But honestly, another thing I will say about Vitria, and like this is why he's cool as fuck, is just like he's been leading these people in Faenir for years unknowingly. Besides the so-called satrap and the closest people to that position, like and whatnot, like taking care of Faenir and whatnot.
Council probably or something.
Yeah, exactly. And Vitria's been doing this so long, he learned human tongue, so this dragon is actually speaking in English or Japanese, whatever you play the game in, and whatnot. So
yeah,
the fact that he learned human tongue is really cool to me.
Yeah, like obviously when the dragons speak, you can still understand them, but they are speaking their own language, like their dragon language.
Thank you, Jerica, for the follow.
Oh? What now?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerica. Jerica's my sister.
Yes, much appreciated.
Thank you, Jerica. Anyway, yeah, I like that. He actually, that's a nice, like, little detail touch. Like, he actually does speak the dialogue in English. Like,
yeah, exactly. So again,
it's a nice touch.
My favorite cool cat's back at it again. And then a freaking cat with sunglasses.
Okay, Jerica.
Goodness.
Regardless, yeah, I think that's it for Faenir. I think we can move on to Garland now. What do you like about Garland, and why is it the whole thing?
This is where shit got real. Like, if you weren't,
Oh.
if you were not invested in the story yet, Garlemald got you invested in the story. Plain
Oh
and
my
simple.
god.
To be fair,
Oh,
that's what happened to me somewhat. Like 81 going through Labyrinthos and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, we're finding out some stuff. And besides one particular scene where Hydaelyn literally takes over Kryle's body to talk to us for a minute, there's not much else
yeah.
that really super interested me quite yet. We did get the funny moment, obviously, with the toads and Erenvale and whatnot. Like that has to be mentioned. But
Oh yeah.
and then Thavnair, it's like there's some more interesting things, but it was mostly just Vitria that I was interested in.
Oh yeah.
Garlemald, again, this is where everything got real. This is where stuff really started to happen, and
Things were depressing.
yeah,
Oh
very
my
very
God.
depressing.
Like the whole of Garlemald is like gray, like even just environmentally. It's like because to be fair, this is up in the snowy mountains, and obviously there's just snow everywhere. It's cold as fuck there. In story, they literally give you a coat as an
Yeah.
item, even though you could just go get it. But you know that's nice of them, I guess, for them to actually care about you. I definitely walked around when I first went through Endwalker. Obviously, people were like, "Oh, this is the glam I'm gonna wear because it's like canon or whatever." Yeah, I quote have what I consider the canon outfit. It's the Uraeus coat, which obviously has the exposed chest and the short sleeves.
Yeah.
And I was wearing the I don't remember what the shorts are, but they're the shorts that they did recently get gender unlocked, but they were female exclusive, where they have like shorts, but then they have like the straps around the thighs. And then I was wearing the level 70 red mage boots.
God, I
did
can't,
go
I
through-
can't, I can't think of the name. Anyway, go on.
But yeah, those that's what I was wearing. I was definitely not dressed for the winter.
Neither was I, to
I
be
mean,
fair.
But yeah, because I mean, I did go on red mage. That's why the boots were the 70 red mage boots. Because they are objectively the best boots in the game, but unfortunately are class locked.
Yeah. Of course, I was on my machinist, and the glamour I have currently, it's the replica Skyrat's aiming chest piece. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's the one. It's like the tank top with like the straps on the arms and the open sides.
Yeah, basically, it's got open sides, somewhat open chest, a little bit, and whatnot.
A
So
little bit.
basically, no long sleeves, normal gloves, pants and shoes, obviously. So I mean, even my character's not dressed for it.
You definitely. I'd argue you were worse dressed for it because you had no sleeves on whatsoever. But no, but even then, obviously, you could wear a bikini out here and no one would care.
Pretty much,
And some people did do that.
just for the jokes.
Oh yeah, but even then, honestly, the entirety of Garlemald was pretty interesting. I mean, admittedly, some of it was like, okay, this is kind of a drag, just because, admittedly, politics don't particularly interest me in general, which I'm aware is a flaw. Don't at me, but even then, it kind of got interesting once you ran into Julius. Julian?
Yeah.
Julius?
To be fair,
Garlemald.
to be fair, for me personally, I'm going to back this up a little bit. We are there because we're trying to show and be like, hey, we want to help get all this resolved. We are here to try and help people, and we run into some Garleans, and they obviously don't trust us, but they're having a bad time. Like,
I remember you're talking about the sisters, right?
yeah, not only the sisters, but because we never saw the second one until we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But we did see a few other people that was with them, particularly in this home that they were basically trying to hide out at.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. The main girl that we're talking to, she did end up lying to us. She didn't tell us that there was somebody in the building, but we do overhear something from the building, so there's clearly another person. But she's trying to protect her because that person is her younger sister that's in the building and whatnot. We end up going out to get stuff while Alphino stays back and is like trying to heal the Garleans because they're not doing great.
Yeah, because he's a healer. He's
Because he's a
this time
healer.
around.
Yeah, he's a sage. He changed to a sage. And basically, whenever we come back, Alphino ended up being attacked. He did fend off all three of the Garleans who attacked him, even if he did get hurt a little bit, but he was fine.
Yeah,
but the
but
main
Apu-
girl and the sister ran off. And so we have to go chase them and track down footsteps. And whenever we find them, they're dead. And I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, like they literally just died. Like
I'm like,
maybe 5 minutes before you got there.
I was like, what? Just let us help you, please.
It's a match. It's like a matter of pride as well.
Yeah.
And even then, like they don't trust magic because naturally, Garleans actually can't use magic. That's why they have Magitech.
Yeah.
So you never find a Garlean that's like a white mage, a black mage, a red mage, a summoner. You never find those. You find them as like paladins, marauders, shit like that. Machinists probably.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, so obviously not only do they not want our help, they also do not trust our magic.
Yeah.
We can't use it.
So yeah, like I was like, yeah, I'm a little like irritated, but to be fair, it was kind of expected that was going to happen in the first place. Of just like, yeah, they're not going to trust us. They may end up trying to do something. Like that was expected, but I was hoping, hey, maybe we'll actually get to help them out and whatnot. And that ended up not being the case. They didn't trust us so much that they decided to run away and then end up getting attacked or something and then just dying. We gave them a burial.
Yeah, we did. We dragged their bodies back.
Yeah, we gave them a burial at least, so that was nice in its own way.
But yeah, and then things got a lot more interesting when you met Julius.
Yes.
Which forces you to go across the Garlean map, which, oh my god, that was annoying. But no, then you get to meet like a general dude. That guy actually was pretty interesting. I actually did pretty much around that whole time. I actually was a lot more invested in the story.
Yeah, again, like with what I just mentioned, like personally for me, I was already invested because of these people that we were trying to help, and then they ended up dying because they don't trust us. And it's like, damn it.
Actually, I would like to talk about this one part that actually, I don't know if it's considered a trigger warning. I'll try and be a bit more subtle about it. Obviously, this guy, you know, he's like the first commander of the Emperor of Garlemald, so he believes in the Emperor's ideas, even though the Emperor is dead because Xenos killed him in a patch. I forgot which one.
Yeah, it was a little while ago.
It was during Shadowbringers.
Yeah.
That happened. So
I want to say 5.3, but it might have been 4.
Even then, yeah, it was at least.
Been a little while.
It has been, yeah. So, but he has been dead, and obviously the Garlean Empire just fell into complete disarray, and something happens where they're like, "Hey, these towers that we've been dealing with, which we didn't even mention that, the towers,
yeah.
A bunch of people." Tried, like the different legions try to combine with each other. They failed. They want help from you. Please help. They came to us. Garleans are accepting our help. Please accept our help too. And the guy, you know, eventually is like, fine, we will accept your help. There's no subtle way to say this. He kills himself because he just cannot stand this idea, but he knows it is good for his people.
Yep. We probably should have mentioned this first too. Basically what happens is Julius comes to our camp, talks to us, and he wants some of our best people, which is literally us, the Warrior of Light, and Alphino and Alize come with us. And we basically talk to everyone and whatnot. And then Alphino and Alize end up getting these collars put on them.
Shock collars put on them.
Yeah, basically shock collars. And so basically they couldn't go against or anything like that. But we end up hanging out with Julius just outside, trying to gather stuff for them. Gather fuel. They need fuel. They need cerulean fuel. And so we're which is basically meant to keep the heaters going and everything like that because it's cold as fucking Garlemald. And
oh yeah, it's
and so basically we end up hanging out with Julius, and he ends up getting attachment to us because he's like, oh, they're not bad or anything like that. And so he feels terrible about the whole shot caller thing, and then having to literally take Alphino and Alize away. So, and we have to go back because they don't want to fuck with us because they know we're the Warrior of Light.
Yeah, like literally, they're like, okay, put the collars on them, and someone approaches you, and they're like, no, don't put it on that one, put it on the other two. That person is the Warrior of Light, and everyone's like, oh shit.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh. So yeah, they don't want to mess with us in particular, but they end up taking Alphino and Alize hostage, and
pretty much, yeah.
And basically, what they ended up using with the fuel that we just gathered for them was, instead of keeping the heaters going, they used it to fill up what Magitech they had and tried to ambush us at our camp, which ended up failing.
Yeah, because our people are badass, so
yeah,
we weren't gonna fall for their petty tricks.
It was literally an attack of desperation of the leader himself. It was his call and everything like that. Julius wasn't all for it, obviously, but he still went with it. And I can't remember his name, but one of Kane Senna's younger people.
Yeah, you're talking about the one that you never see his eyes, right?
Yeah, you never see his eyes. It's like a hentai protagonist.
Oh my god.
So I had to throw that joke out there.
Yeah, but yeah, that guy, the guy you don't ever see his eyes, he's like, hey, no, stop.
He literally cast a big wind spell, and it's like, hey, none of this shit.
You mean Arrow 3, the thing we don't have anymore?
Yeah, right.
Or is it Arrow 4?
But that's the thing. It could be literally whatever he wants because he is an NPC.
Yeah. Regardless, yeah, and they, your person, God, what's her name? She's like Amaric's right-hand woman.
Lucia.
Lucia. I'm sorry. Livia's someone else.
Or yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Lucia, which I love. She's awesome.
We stand Lucia in this household.
She is also Garland herself, but she ended up coming to Ishgard.
Well, yeah, specifically she went to Ishgard.
Yeah, ended up being
like captain of, or like the head general for Amaric.
Yeah, basically Amaric's right hand woman, I guess.
I mean, regardless, she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
You're with her, you're in capable hands, just like Allstate. Sorry, terrible.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, regardless, and she explained the situation. Hey, your people came to us. They came to like the Eorzean Alliance for assistance, and that's when
And then that's whenever the general. That's whenever the general does. That was quite the scene, though. We were like, "Whoa, we are three levels. We are three, maybe. Yeah, we are 3 levels in at best to the story.
Yeah, like this might still be 82, but like at this point you're probably 83. But even then, no, because I remember this very distinctly because even I was like, I had like multiple thoughts as this scene was playing. So first was he accepts the help, like yes, finally he's listening to reason. Then he turns around, he grabs a gun, and I was like, oh my god, he's about to try and go kill someone. He loads it, and quite frankly, he points it at himself, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, he points at himself. I'm like, no.
And then the scene cuts like, hey, we gotta go hurry and talk to him. And then the next thing you see, it cuts back. There's blood on the wall, and he's dead on the ground.
What makes it worse is that there's blood on the Garland flag or banner that they have hanging, which they actually gave a lore reason for why it looks the way it does. It's like a chain link. It's like comrades in arms and everything like that. Like, you are one whole unit. And I'm like, oh, that's such a good reason for the Garland banner, the symbol.
I know, and I'm like, well, what do the other ones mean?
Right.
I want to know.
Yeah,
I want to know
that's
now.
true. But I was like, the fact that they gave a lore reason for why it is the way it is, I was like, oh man, that's good.
Good shit. Speaking of good shit, can we talk about Fandaniel now? Because you do run into him in Garland mode.
I wasn't expecting that to be your segue, calling Fandaniel good shit.
Okay, at this point in time, it's not good shit. It is later good shit, though.
Basically, what ends up happening is we haven't even explained these towers yet. So, in Faenir, there's a tower called Tower of Babel. That's a Tower of Zot. We take care of the Tower of Zot, and whatnot. And basically, it's... If you get too close to these towers, it basically... it works the same way as whenever the primals are basically in touch with you, and you get what is it called? Tempered.
Yeah, you get tempered.
You get tempered.
Mind controlled, basically.
Yeah, mind controlled. And the towers do the exact same thing, but they are specifically for Garlemald because of the way Fandaniel has and Xenos has done that. Mostly Fandaniel, probably, but
let's be real. Fandaniel did all the work. Xenos just sat there and looked pretty.
Yeah, because Xenos is just like, oh, cool, this helps me get to my target, which is us. We'll get to that in the meantime.
Yeah.
But
then, because you do kind of see Fandaniel a little bit. You kind of see him in Faenir for a brief moment.
Oh yeah, which is where we learned something important about him.
Oh shit, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, because you do a thing regarding the Tower of Zot. Someone gets kidnapped, you run in to try and grab her. You don't grab her yet, you grab her later, don't worry. And then he basically tells you, hey, so you know how we Asians, like, are kind of, like, reincarnated, in a way? Like, we have multiple versions of ourselves through the different sundered versions of us. Would you like to know who I was once? He literally tells you that he's Amon from the Kingdom of Alak, and I'm like, honestly, I'm gonna be real, I was like, who the hell was Amon again?
Yeah, you freaking scrub.
I legit was like, okay, this sounds important. Who the fuck was Amon? I literally had no idea.
Basically, Amon is in the Crystal Tower series.
Yeah, I forgot that. I was like, this sounds important. So it wasn't quite the bombshell that some people thought it was, and I was like, who was this?
That was for you specifically, since you...
Yeah, that was me specifically. I mean, it sounded interesting. I was like, okay, this sounds like someone I should know.
Yeah, if you paid more attention.
In my defense,
to be fair,
Amon in the Crystal Tower raids is just a sub-boss.
Oh yeah, he's to be fair, he's still a boss of the Crystal Tower raids. And to be fair, you also didn't need to do the Crystal Tower raids as much as I did.
That's also true.
Because whenever I started playing Final Fantasy, basically right around the corner, the new content was King Moggle for Trial, and it was Circus Tower for the Crystal Tower raids. Brand new content at that time, whenever I started playing. So, yeah.
But yeah, so that happened because he... anyway, Fandaniel was like, hey, now that everything, obviously after the general's dead, which this is going into the part of one of my favorite moments that happened in Garland. It's also the most traumatizing thing that happened during Endwalker.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real. Connor was in chat with me when this happened, and I was legitimately terrified. So, everything's calm.
Also,
things are going good.
At this particular point in time, I was just a little ahead of you in story, I believe.
Yeah, I think you were on the moon at that point.
Yeah, I was on the moon.
Yeah.
So I knew what was coming.
Yeah, okay, so, everything's calm.
Well, first things first. What ends up happening is all the Garleans, after their general had literally just died, they're with us at the camp, We're trying to help them. Like, here's some food, it's like, here, just enjoy this. Like, and Julius in particular, he's just kind of walking around and someone's like, here, tries to hand him a cup that's this, like, food drink mixture, because, like, it's a liquid, but it's kind of a food. But it's in a mug.
A soup.
Yeah, it's a soup. And
the answer is soup.
Yeah, and I'm at the soup store. Anyway. Anyway.
Sorry.
So basically, this random NPC is trying to hand Julius his cup. It's like, here, just take it, mate. We're all friends here. And then another NPC walks up talking about the soup. Be like, hey, it's really good, We're being friendly. And then I don't remember what the NPC says in particular, but it really resonates with Julius, and then Julius just starts crying, and I'm like, oh, God, the feels.
He can relax. He's fine.
And then
shit hits the fan.
And then, as a matter of fact, we should probably mention this too. Whenever we were in Faenir, we had the alchemist of Faenir make us these trinkets that would protect us from temperament of the towers, which is how we entered Tower of Zot in the first place, to beat the Tower of Zot.
We were fine, but no one else was.
Yeah, no one else was, because we're badass and we don't deal with temperament. We're good.
Yeah, but even then, we can't bring anyone else with us. That's what this thing is. So...
Yeah, exactly. So basically everybody else has these trinkets that are meant to keep them from temperament. And what ends up happening very shortly after Julius starts crying is there is a scream sound from the tower that's in Garlemald, which is the Tower of Babel. And every Garlean that, because we just got them in our camp, they don't have trinkets. I don't even know if we have any extra trinkets in the first place. But
well, we don't know because we got things happened.
Yeah. So basically, a scream came from the tower, and all the Garleans started going crazy because they're being tempered, while all of us are fine. And in the midst of all this chaos, Van Daniel just appears, is basically like, hello, grabs us, and teleports us away. And then this is where shit gets,
real. This shit got so real. Oh my god.
You can take over from here if you want.
Okay, cool, perfect. Okay, so because he first pretends to be like one of the soldiers, like he like disguises himself as a soldier, like, oh hero, please save me, and you turn around and he's like, oh hi, it's me, Xenos wants to see you, grabs you, and I'm like, okay, thanks. He takes you to dinner. That sounds weird, but that's not wrong. So you're kind of waking up and you're hearing him talk about an experiment, and then Van Daniel's like, hey, enjoy your dinner. Oh, but don't forget to remove your helmet. Which, from this point, it's been from a first-person perspective. And then it switches back to third person, and you are actually in the body of someone else. They literally extracted your soul and put it in a dead body.
Yeah, you're in the body of a dead Garlean soldier. Just any regular soldier.
Like, just some person. You never know who it is.
Yeah.
And honestly, holy shit. That scared me. I was like, what happened? Like, where's our body, right?
I did love that, though, because one of your dialogue options were, this is such a pain in the arse. Which I 100% picked.
I did it on my first playthrough, because I got bored and I was rewatching some of these cutscenes. I did pick it again, and it's pretty funny, yeah.
Yeah. Also, during this cutscene, let me just say, I never want to hear Fan Daniel say daddy ever again.
Never. I remember one of our friends, you were ahead of me. I was during this cutscene, and another of our friends, who we call Meh, was a little bit behind. And I literally said this, and I quote this. You can quote me on the fact that I did quote this. I said, no spoilers, but I never want to hear Fan Daniel say daddy ever again. Okay, for context as to why he said daddy, because let's be real, this game is rated T, but it needs a little context. So the Emperor dude that Xenos killed, his father, they chopped his body into pieces. His pieces of the body are in the towers, and the main body is behind a giant door, and that is actually the primal that tempered everybody. It's Anima.
Anima, which you may know from Final Fantasy X.
Specifically, the sentence he said was, oh my, Daddy's happy that his little boy has finally found his playmate. I do remember this line.
Oh,
this
yeah.
line stuck with me.
Because it's traumatizing.
I'm like, you forced me to dinner, you put my soul inside a body, and now you're calling people daddy. I hate this cutscene.
And then, basically, Xenos starts talking, going on about one thing after the other.
Our body is just casually sitting in a giant chair nearby.
Yeah, he walks over, and then all of a sudden, bam, we see our lifeless body just sitting in almost more like a throne with how big the chair is.
Yeah, it's a throne. Like a Game of Thrones style throne.
Yeah, and we're like, oh shit. And so what ends up happening though is Xenos is like, okay, I'm gonna take your body now, bye.
Literally, he possesses our body, and then Van Daniel's like, oh no, what's gonna happen if you show up to the camp but it's not you?
And thus this takes us into a grueling instance where we are very weak.
Dude, this instance is the reason I have anxiety. This shit is, oh my god, because like, basically, I don't know why, even though Xenos teleported out of there, he decides to casually walk to the camp.
Yeah, it
Oh, that's so
basically
funny.
basically gives us time. So basically, we're on a time limit. We're in this body that knows like 2 moves, and we can heal ourselves with potions that we pick up. We don't just
Like, oh
have
my
we
god.
don't just have a heal.
Yeah, which makes sense. You're in the body of a Garland. Of course, you wouldn't have a
Yeah,
healing spell.
exactly.
Um,
So like,
but like, I genuinely wish they would do stuff more like this, where like it is actively against you. Actually,
yeah,
obviously,
that's
it
the
is
thing.
meant to be completed, but it's actively against your favor.
There's enemies everywhere. You do not want to fight every enemy. You will die. Plain and simple.
You might be able to take on one at a time, but that's it.
Yeah, like you might be able to get one here and there, but like for the most part, you need to avoid most enemies, and you have to complete the specific thing you're supposed to do with the instance without getting into combat very often. Basically none. Basically not at all, if preferable.
Yeah, because it's like you have to try and get there, but you got to get out of there. Because the quickest way to do it is with like a Magitech armor suit, and you have to find the key, find the fuel. You help a couple Garleans that were there too, and then an explosion happens, and you literally the status effect you get is literally like on death's door, where you are literally dying, but you're still trying to literally crawl your way to the camp.
Yeah, so you literally start crawling. It's like, yeah, it's like since I already done it, I was like, all right, Jess, crawl, go. You got to get there.
I was legit. I was like, I have to crawl my way there. And I was like, I'm so far away.
No,
Obviously, not literally the entire
basically,
way.
you go a
You
short
had to get
distance.
to the end of the road.
Yeah, you go a short distance, and then it goes into a cutscene, and then
Which is funny because even though you're on death's door, you're literally starting to crawl faster. I think at one point.
yeah.
Oh my god, it was terrifying. Anyway, the entire part of Garland mode was good. That instance was honestly probably my favorite instance, just because like that was anxiety-inducing, which I think was the point. Like it's unfamiliar, it's scary. You don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's great.
and then basically Zeno starts walking up on the camp, and things have calmed down at the camp, and then your friends are like, where are they? And then Graha ear twitches because he hears somebody walking.
Ear wiggles.
Ear wiggles, and then look over, and it's like, oh hell yeah! And I think it's Graha and Alize that run forward.
Yeah, but Y'shtola, obviously, because she's physically blind, but she could still see through ether and stuff. Obviously, she could see people's, like, essence or whatever.
Yeah,
so
she's
she
like,
looks at you, was like, I don't think that's them.
she was like, are you sure that's them? But Graha and Alize had already started running forward by that point. And then they get right in front of quote-unquote you, and then a sinister look comes across, and Graha and Alize are basically just like, wait a second, what have you done? Like, what have you done with them? And Xenos is about to attack with his familiar, because he is a Reaper now, so he has his own void sense, and which I'm guessing is going to get explained in the following patches. For reasons unknown. But so basically his void scent goes to attack, and we appear and basically throw the weapon and stop it from happening. And I definitely did the line that was like, get away from them, you bastard.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my god.
I was like, literally, don't you touch 2 of my favorites in this entire game.
Like, you're not gonna... How dare you touch my husbando or waifu?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, but even then, honestly, that whole section was really good. That was great. As for the moon, I'd actually argue that pretty much anything on the surface of the moon was pretty interesting. Not to say that the Loperites that you meet are bad, but that section in particular definitely dragged a little bit.
By the way, I was one of the people that Fantasia to Mel Vieira. And whenever I got to the Loperites, I was like, do you think this is offensive to Vieira? that the Loperites exist?
No, but honestly, the entire part of anything on the surface of the moon was actually very fascinating to me. Something about, like, ancient Amarot related things, honestly, is very intriguing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I really like it.
That's the thing.
I think it's awesome.
I don't think we'll stick to the moon very long, because to be fair, the moon did drag Like, you were
Well,
there a
specifically-
long time.
Specifically, the issue with the not the issue, but the whole part with the Loprits. To be fair, they're explaining a lot of stuff. They're trying to get the point across. They do tell you interesting information. It just was way too long. Also, the area is huge as fuck.
It's not a matter of it was like way too long necessarily for me, but it definitely still tracked because you were just there you were there from level 83 to basically almost 85.
Yeah, which is a while.
Like, that is a while. It's a lot of story quests and just story in general going on. Which, to be
I'm so
fair,
glad I have
kind of needs
Cloud's
to happen.
motorcycle, which naturally is faster because I was like, this is taking way too long. I need to get to places.
And like, yeah, we already mentioned it, but I'll go ahead and say, like, specifically, the Zodiark fight was interesting because they actually did try to think of like, oh, what's some potentially new mechanics or twists that we could do on existing mechanics that we can incorporate into basically this whole expansion. Because there's some dungeons too that do it, where they like touch upon some other form of a mechanic that already exists, or try to do something slightly different.
Yeah, like, you don't need to completely fix what isn't broken, but you can't just do the same thing. Even just giving it a new coat of paint sometimes works wonders, honestly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the Zodiark fight was good, and especially like the first time I was in there. I'm an idiot.
Are you talking about the part where like you'll actually kind of move around the platform and you see the star constellations and stuff?
See, no, the star constellation part, that was easy. I understood the assignment on that one immediately.
I don't remember the names of these moves. You're gonna have to forgive me, especially since half of his moves are in Greek.
Yeah, but yeah, specifically where the platform rotates, I'm like, man, I'm stupid.
I'm actually pretty good at that personally. It's not too hard for me.
Again, it was really like the first couple times I went in there. It's like I'm just an idiot with that one.
Yeah, I mean, first time obviously everyone fails, but I did learn that one pretty quick. Because rotating a platform just 90 degrees isn't too hard for me.
Oh yeah,
in my brain.
Well, that's the thing. It's just like it's just 90 degrees.
Yeah,
Please.
it's just 90 degrees.
But I just wanted to touch upon the fight a little bit there. So.
But I will say, someone actually mentioned about this moment because up until this point, Fandaniel has been very like jokey. He's been very like, oh yes, like very flamboyant,
very jovial,
very eccentric. But then you get to this part right here. There's no sound. It's dead silent. The seal on Zodiark is broken, and you know this is his goal. He awoke Zodiark, right? And then Xenos, because he's there, wants to fight you. But then Fandaniel's like, hold on a second. He turns to you, and because I don't remember which patch. I think it's 5.4, where you meet Fandaniel, and he says like, okay, why does he want to cause the final days? And he basically says, because I want everyone to die, and I want to die. Obviously, you don't know why yet.
Yeah, literally, he just wants to kill everything,
including himself. And then right before you fight Zodiark, there's this cutscene where he turns to you. He goes, "Do you remember what I said? That I wanted to die and take everyone with me. I meant it." And he jumps in the hole where Zodiark is.
Because basically Zodiark was incomplete, so Fandaniel jumping in allowed him to basically take control of Zodiark itself.
Yeah, because when we mentioned that he's like very like flamboyant and eccentric, like he's very like his voice says that, but in this moment he is dead serious.
Oh yeah, dead serious.
And I'm like literally he said that, I was like, what? And then he like just literally falls back. I was like, holy shit! Even Xenos, who has like no emotion, was like, what?
Yeah, he actually had like a little bit of a facial reaction of just like, this was not in the plan. Like, that was not in the plan. Like, what Xenos thought was going to happen is that Xenos was going to become Zodiark, I believe.
Yeah, it didn't really matter. But even then, and then not to mention, the cutscene that plays directly after you kill Zodiark, Fandaniel kills himself. Like, he destroys Zodiark himself because he's the core. And, like, it, like, slow-mo, like, you hear Fandaniel giving this monologue of, oh, he's, once again, I pass away because this is all I've done.
Yeah, basically that was the start of like, are they really going to try and make me feel for Fandaniel?
I know, because up until this point, I've had like no emotion, like genuine, like good emotion. I mean, I think he's funny. I think he's interesting. But
well, see,
I
it made
would
it
not
more interesting.
say
It made
I
it more
liked
interesting
him.
though. It made it more interesting because of the body that they chose to give Fandaniel, because you can't choose a more punchable face.
Yeah, it's Asahi.
Yeah, they get like Fandaniel has Asahi's body, so it's like that's one of the most punchable faces in this entire game. That and the freaking guy from the Weapon series. My God,
We're not talking about.
we're not
that.
talking about that though. So,
Oh my god, that actually needed a trigger warning, honestly.
oh my God, that whole story. But
Good story. Anyway, but
so
you know,
yeah,
that happened.
that was the start of making us feel for Fandaniel, and trust us, we will be getting more into it eventually.
Anyway, yeah, it's because I think we need to stop lingering.
Yeah, because
What, at least-
we've been on garland mold, and like the moon, I guess in particular,
moon.
just add on to it for a bit now. So it's time to move
So-
on from the moon back to Thavnair.
So yeah, we're going back to Thavnair, where literally hellfire is raining.
The weather is literally called apocalypse. Because
It will
basically
be
what
apocalypse.
happened is, with Zodiark dying, it has set off this chain of events where there's an imbalance within the world. And
Well, yeah, because we were under the impression that awakening Zodiac would cause the final days. No, killing him would do it because he was preventing it.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, congrats. We, the Warrior of Light, hero of
Hold
the
on.
realm.
Acute
Caused
Bear
the
Man,
apocalypse.
thank you for the follow.
What? Oh, thank you.
But alright, so let's see. Yeah, so basically killing Zodiark set off this chain of events, and from there, again, we had to talk to the Loporrits. We were there on the moon for a long time, but then we go back to Thavnair, and it's just hellfire, apocalypse, literal apocalypse happening, because Thavnair, I guess, was where, like, the Aether was the weakest, so that's where it got impacted first. Something along
Yeah,
that lines. It's because of the
it was-
Aether waves.
Yeah, you know, they explained that on the moon, like, oh yeah, the ethereal celestial currents were
Yeah,
weak,
the
and
ethereal
that's where the... I don't remember. They gave a lot of technical information, but basically, the points where it's the weakest is where it showed up first. Anyway, I actually also like that, well, one, the weather is apocalypse. When you're inside of dungeons, I think it's called termination. No, I'm sorry, that's different.
Yeah, I was about to say
later.
that. I'm pretty sure that's different. But yeah, basically, we go back to Thavnair, and we're getting set to do a dungeon called Vanaspati. And
Vanaspati, oh my god.
interesting dungeon.
It was an interesting dungeon, because, like, you know, obviously, you land at Thavnair. You're there maybe 5 minutes, and then you have to go into a dungeon, and it's like, whoa, what's, like, you know, you don't know what's going on. Hellfire is loose, beasts are everywhere. Yeah, and the people themselves are turning into these beasts. They're not just spawning from magic. They are the beasts. And I was like, oh.
Basically, think of Danganronpa with hope and despair. If your despair is too high, you're turning into a monster.
Yeah, like, they figure it out. Like, if your despair and your grief is too high, like, you're being overwhelmed with negative emotions, then you're turning into, you know...
Literally, all we were missing was Kamaida to show up, you know?
No. We're not, no. We're not doing this today.
Yeah,
maybe
if we talk about that, we will be on this train way longer than we want.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. But yeah, Connor's not wrong. It is very Danganronpa-esque in that aspect. However, you know, Aha wins like, hey, you know, hellfire is happening. My people are turning into monsters. However, there's a really big one that went into the forest of Vanaspati. Can you go kill it?
Yeah, and it's like, all right, cool. And you know, we go through the whole dungeon of Vanaspati. Couple nice mechanics and everything. Go ahead.
I would like to mention this because obviously not everyone thinks this, and that's okay. I still think that a game's mechanics and even the names of things can help tell a story.
Oh, yeah.
First boss literally has moves called What is Right and What is Left.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're like, what's the right thing to do? What's left remaining? And I'm like, ah!
Yep. There's also a whole sequence after the first boss.
Oh, yeah,
where,
like right before the second one.
Where you're right before the second one, where you're running along, and you see a few of the elephant people at the distance. You see a bigger one and like 3 smaller ones of varying sizes as they go down.
Yeah,
all
like
the way to really small.
they're the kids.
They're the kids. And the kids are like, come on, we gotta go. And the mom's like, there's nothing left. And she falls to despair, turns into a monster. And then all the kids turn into monsters right in front of her eyes. And then we have to kill them. And all the monsters are smaller sizes too from the mom. I'm like, oh my god.
Every time, I'm like, I hate this. Not to mention, the second boss is a monster, but if you look at it from the back side, it's pretty clear it was one of the whatever they're called, they're elephant, well, the Akasotra, I think.
I don't remember specifically. Here's the thing. I was the one that pointed that out to you.
That's true. You did say that. You were the one, because I just thought it was just like a weird, gross texture, and you're like, hey, what does it look like? I'm like,
it literally looks like an elephant's. It literally looks like an elephant's face, ears, and trunk.
I know. I was like, oh my god. Good design though. That's horrifying.
Yep.
Not to mention, I would like to explain this one. So last boss, I don't remember what it's called.
It doesn't matter. It's an abomination.
Connor was like, hey, you remember the dungeon Amarant, right? And I was like, yeah, I do. It's a good dungeon. He's like, yeah, do you remember the first Doom? And I was like, yeah, what about it? And then I crossed the threshold, see the little cutscene, and I was like, oh my god, it can fly!
It's the first Doom from Amarant, but it can fly. It's like, I can't believe they made it worse.
I was like, I didn't know you could make it worse.
Seriously, it's like a spider that can jump. Like, how can you make something that's already terrible worse?
Please don't talk about spiders. Anyways, that dungeon, very fascinating, terrifying every time I go through it. Even
gear, exceptional.
Gear, the gear, oh my god, I still use the gear. I use the casting chest piece. It's really good. Good shit. Yeah, so there's that happens. You try to calm the people. Aha Win dies, unfortunately. Because he tried to rescue someone.
Yeah, Aha Win dies.
Yeah, good character development with, Estedian, who obviously has a weird grudge with dragons, but also not really a weird grudge with dragons. Talking to Vitria, of all people, that was really good. He says his line from the trailer. Pretty much everyone says their, like, iconic line from the trailer at some point. I mean, honestly, I think, like, the whole thing around Vanasmati, really the whole second time you go to Faenir was very interesting. The entire time, like, this high-anxiety standing music from Vanasmati is playing in the background as you're running through Faenir.
Yep. So basically, Faenir's just in shambles as this is all going on.
Yeah, and then, you sit there and go, huh, what do? We need to find someone who can talk about the final days. But we've killed all the Asians. What do we do? And then they go, hey, do you remember that flower that Hydaelyn gave you when she possessed Kryle's body back in Labyrinthos?
Oh god, we haven't talked about the flower at all.
Yeah, we have not. You get this flower. She doesn't give it a name. No, I'm sorry, yeah. They call it... The person on the moon, who's like the guardian deity watcher person, not deity, but she's like, he's like a spirit that watches Zodiark, tells you that the name of the flower... No, they don't tell you the name of the flower, yet. But they tell you it's a key, or it's important. Yeah. And then they're like, hey, wait. There's one person we can still speak to, maybe. And the answer is it's Elidibus in Norvrant.
Yeah, so we gotta go...
Because he's still sealed in the Crystal Tower.
Yeah, he's still sealed in the Crystal Tower in Shadowbringers area.
Yeah, so you go back there briefly. Unfortunately, you don't really get to talk to Reen that much, which makes me so sad. I miss my daughter.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I miss Reen a lot. But anyway, yeah, you go talk to Elidibus, and he basically goes, hey, you know how this tower can travel through time? Because, of course it can. How about I take you to the location that is the name of this flower? The name of the flower is Elpis. There's literally a facility named Elpis. And he takes you there because you need to speak to... what do you call it? Whatever, you're oh yeah. You were there to speak to Fandaniel. Or the person who becomes Fandaniel. Because, like, the name's Fandaniel and itself, Elidibus, they're titles. They're not actually their names.
Right.
So you go talk to the previous Fandaniel. His name is Hermes.
Honestly, Hermes is great.
Honestly, I love Hermes. See, here's the thing. Obviously, we know him as the Fandaniel that we know. Obviously, we do not like Fandaniel on principle, because he is Fandaniel. You go meet Hermes. I think it's fair to say, I see why everybody simps for Hermes.
More importantly, though, the main thing we got from Elpis, besides knowledge, is Bird Daughter.
We got Bird Daughter!
I love Medion.
Medion is the best. I love Medion. She's so cute. I like the fact that she's like a little bird creature. She's also like really shy, and I'm just like, I love you so much.
And basically, she has trouble talking, but she has this power where she can like talk through the power of emotions, in a sense, which we will get to.
But yeah, also I have to say, landing there, you're very small because you are sundered.
I was about to say, how could we get to that point without talking about the very first part of going to Elpis?
Yes, yeah. So you're very small. You can't be seen because you're just,
We do stand Bird Daughter in this household.
We do stand Bird Daughter in this household, Jerica. Yes, we do. Obviously, people don't see you because you're so thin in ether that nobody can see you, except people with exceptionally good ethereal sight. Ironically, the two people that show up are Emmett Silk and his best friend, Hythlodaeus, who both have really exceptional sight.
What are you talking about? Hythlodaeus is also our best friend.
Hythlodaeus is our bestest best friend ever.
That he doesn't know he's our best friend yet, at this point.
Yeah, because, he becomes our best friend. But I would like to make this little note, because when you first get there, obviously everyone wears a mask. That's just like part of their society. But however, as part of the rule, if you're not from there, you have to reveal your face to prove that you don't work there, I guess. Which is weird. I feel like it'd be the other way around, but whatever. So, obviously Emmett Silk and Hythlodaeus arrive, and they take off their masks. Their eyes, like any person there who you see, their eyes are gorgeous. Like, they have this, like the way they design the eyes and the way they texture them, it actually makes them look like they all have glowing eyes.
Yeah. Like, the fact that even Emmett Silk has just absolutely, fantastic eyes is like... Huh. As if people weren't already simping for Emmett Silk in some fashion. From Shadowringers.
I love Emmett Silk, but I don't see the simp part.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I love Emmett Silk, but it's like, I'm not gonna simp for this man, but I do love Emmett Silk. Like, I want to see Emmett Silk again. And we did.
Like, that's why we did. And I was like, yes, he came back! But no, you meet those two, they help you go through Elpis, they may let you meet Hermes. Also, I was 100% expecting Hermes to have blue eyes for some reason. He takes off his mask and they're like bright green. And I'm like, ooh.
I was literally like, wait until you see Hermes' eyes.
Like his eyes, and because he's got like the black hair and he's kind of tan. So I was like, okay, blue might be a good color. No, they're green, which makes sense because he uses wind magic, and wind is typically green.
Not only that, there's already plenty of blue thanks to Medion.
Blue is, and then not to mention, you also meet Venat.
Yeah, you meet Venat, who
Hashtag Heidelin.
Yeah, hashtag Heidelin, who, we figured that out by this point in time. And this is how we end up really learning about Heidelin technically, because Venat is Heidelin.
Really, I told myself that we should just talk about each of our favorite points, but honestly, the entirety of Elpis was really good. So, honestly, we could just
The entirety of Elpis was fantastic. Except for seeing Bird Daughter with black eyes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So, obviously, we know ether, right? It's like the magic we use. However, there's a polar opposite. It's the power of emotion. They call it dynamis. Medion is a being entirely made of dynamis, which is weird to me. I don't understand how they can't manipulate dynamis, but then Hermes made a being completely out of dynamis. I don't understand that, but whatever.
And basically, there's a point that happens earlier on where Emmett Selk mentions something about Medion, where it's like she's so thin in aether, it's like she could just disappear at any given moment. But we didn't know she was made of dynamis at that time.
I think Hythlodaeus said that, but yeah, one of them mentions it. But yeah, and then, you learn that there is more than one Medion. There are many Medion.
Yeah, and they share kind of a connection across the space and time and whatnot. Because basically a bunch of them flew out, while the Medion that we meet in Elpis is basically the one that stays there and is kind of like just the one that receives all the messages from all the other Medions.
Yeah, because Hermes was like, you know what? I feel like... Because honestly, I kind of understand this conflict of... He feels out of place, and he doesn't understand why he himself feels this way, but no one else seems to. And I'm like, dude, stop reading me. I hate this. You were putting a read on my emotions. I hate you so much.
Basically, what the Flower of Elpis does is it can read emotions. If there's a strong emotion in the area, it will resonate a color based on that emotion. So it could be red, green, yellow, that kind of stuff. Purple if you're sad. And basically...
Hermes, it's almost always purple or black.
Yeah.
If he's nearby it.
Yeah, so he was like, why am I the only one that has this happen? And then we have a whole cutscene where we show that we can feel sad too. And he's like, I'm not alone. Thank God.
Yeah, he's like, oh, thank God. But yeah, so basically he created Medion and her many, many sisters, apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently there's a ton of them. And I'm like, I don't know how you did that, but whatever. And basically, he sent them off into the universe, because all the stars you see are basically other worlds, and he wants to know what gives these civilizations meaning. That's why he created a being out of dynamis, because even if you can't actually talk to them, you can still communicate via emotion. Because everyone has emotions, right? Unless you're me, where you're dead inside. Bad joke. But, sorry. The fact you didn't laugh right after that, I was like, oh, okay, maybe that was a bad joke. Anyway, yeah. So, but while you're there, and, you let these people in the past know about the final days that happen in the future, which should create a time paradox, but it doesn't. And you let Hermes in on this, too. And they're like, okay, we think that the reason the final days are happening is because of a dynamis reaction. And you are an expert on dynamis. What are your thoughts? And that's when Medion gets, like, a message from the other Medions in the space. And shit hits the fan again.
It's all literally, like, almost every Medion that went out in search of life and asking this question of what meaning do you have, like, what gives your life meaning and stuff like that. All these worlds that they went to were already dead or dying.
Yeah, like, it's all despair and death and sadness. Like, there's no happiness out there, basically, at all.
So basically, the question that Hermes gave is extremely flawed for Medion, because Medion is basically an AI by this point. So basically, for her, the only answer she can give Hermes is there is no meaning in life. It is death. It is despair. Life should just die, just all together.
Yeah, and the scene in which, like, because she kind of like, okay, receiving report, and then she just, like, starts shaking, and, like, her eyes fill up black, and she starts crying ink, and I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah, and then basically she just disappears, because since she's made a dynamis, she can just kind of dissipate herself, I guess, and move around that way. So we have to go find her, and then Hermes ends up hearing the reports of, like, this planet's dead, this planet's dead, this planet's dying, and that kind of stuff. And instead of giving Medion up, Hermes goes a step further, takes Medion himself after he transforms into his something form.
Battle form, I guess.
Yeah, battle form. And he goes to Catissus Hyperborea, which is the next dungeon.
Or as we like to jokingly call it, Catissus Hyperborea.
Yeah, basically say it stupidly.
But yeah, you go to Katissa's Hyperborea, and you go up there, which is a really tall facility. You punch Hermes, and then this is like the one unskippable cutscene. Like, okay, you can skip the cutscene, but like you cannot speed the dialogue. It is automatic.
Right.
And, you know, it's basically Meteon continuing her report and basically being like, okay, one, I'm gonna give myself an edgy makeover. Now I am solid black because despair and whatnot. And now this is the conclusion that I have reached. We're just gonna kill the planet, which is Aetheris, which you learn on the moon.
Yeah, our planet is called Aetheris in Final Fantasy.
Turns out the world is not just the source; it actually has a name.
Yep.
Anyway, that happens, but then Hermes, because he's the overseer of Elpis and also of the facility Katissa's Hyperborea, conveniently there's a thing. I remember it's called Kairos. Basically, it can reset memories, and he basically wipes everyone's memories there, except for you and Venat, because both of y'all managed to escape.
Basically, something else that happened real quick too, though, is that basically Hermes doubling down again is just like, go Meteon, is trying to let Meteon escape, and Meteon starts taking off into space. Venat chases after on her lovable gold doggo.
We stand Argo in this house.
Yep, Argo. And basically Meteon does end up changing into an actual, like, bird form and goes even faster. And Venat basically just has to shoot out a thing that can kind of track Meteon. So that's what she does. She shoots something out, it lands on Meteon, and that'll track Meteon. And Venat is coming back down in the background while we're doing all this other stuff with Emet-Selch, Hythlodaeus, Hermes, and ourselves.
Yeah.
So basically, there's a way that we can get out of because basically the Kairos thing impacts the entirety of Katissa's Hyperborea because Hermes commanded it to. So basically, Hythlodaeus, Emet-Selch, and ourselves had to play up something because Hythlodaeus and Emet-Selch know something that we don't know, that there is a way to get out of Katissa's Hyperborea because there's some kind of gates or something along that line.
Wormhole, basically.
Yeah. So Hythlodaeus is like, I will shoot out. He's basically playing it up like, oh, the gate is right here. All he has to do is attack it strong enough. It'll open up. Bam, you can escape. And
yeah.
And yet,
yeah.
That's technically wrong. He was playing it up. It was all for show. Hermes fell for it, and he attacked Hythlodaeus in the midst of being attacked by Emet-Selch that he's been guarding this entire time. And we take the shot for Hythlodaeus, Venat catches us on Argo, and then Emet-Selch does his iconic snap of the fingers, and bam, the gate opens.
Just a snap.
Yep. So then Venat and us fly out while Emet-Selch gives us a thing. It's like, do not squander this legacy I leave you.
And it's like, no, he cares.
It's just like, he does care. He has a quick little smile. His smile that he had, that little smile he had in Shadowbringers. And it's just like,
yeah.
Damn it.
Right, the feels.
Emet-Selch is great.
I'm not a simp, but still has to be the feels. But yeah, so you leave Katissa's Hyperborea, and you two are the only people that know about the impending apocalypse, and you go back to your time after confirming for a fact that you two are the only ones that remember that Hythlodaeus, Emet-Selch, and Hermes do not remember any of this.
Yeah, they have no idea what happened and everything like that because of the memory thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just wild. And then you see a montage. This montage also fucked me up.
Basically, the song Answers is playing, which is a absolutely fantastic and beautiful song. And the fact that we now have a lore reason for why Answers exists, and Answers actually exists because of what happens in Emerald. It's about Emerald, which is insane.
Yeah.
This song has been in the game since A Realm Reborn.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was about Emerald all this time, I don't know if they somehow figured that out later, or if that somehow could have always been in the works.
If that was always in the works, then good job. If that wasn't in the works, but you managed to actually make it work, that also deserves some praise.
Yeah, because even
you
still,
can't you can't just pull shit out of your ass.
because even still, if they somehow thought about that, that is almost 10 years ahead worth of planning.
That's insane.
That is absolutely insane.
Not to mention, we have multiple versions of answers now.
Yeah, we have multiple versions of answers and whatnot. Basically, there's this montage of Venat just walking forward, and the way some people interpret it was basically she'd end up kind of getting hit in some way, shape, or form, and she gets more ragged and more bloody each time it happens. And some people like to interpret that that's Heidelin taking hits for us. Because to be fair, we've almost died a lot.
Yeah, but even then, we still have her blessing, the blessing of light.
Yeah.
And so, in a way, it protects you. But in a way, where's the damage going? You're just not taking it, is what people assume. But people also had the assumption that, no, we are taking some of the damage still, obviously. But in some cases, no, it's Venat who's taking the majority of it.
Yeah, and I was like, God, that whole montage and everything hit me really hard. And not to mention, there was a thing where we're seeing Venat walk through Amarat as the final days are happening. And she comes up on the cathedral, which is actually where we fight the second boss in Amarat and Shadowbringers. And
Yeah, the second tomb or whatever.
yeah, and all these Asians are looking up, like, praying for Zodiark. And Venat is like, no, like, this is not what we should be doing and everything like that. Like, regardless, we will live on. And Venat is the whole reason that the Asians are sundered. She's like, I basically consider us sundered, and she was born as Heidelin from that.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think the line literally is, because, oh my god, it's such a badass. She literally is like, she summons her weapon, and she's like, okay, I hereby sunder us.
Yeah, something like that.
Henceforth, I cast us out of paradise. Henceforth, man shall walk.
Yeah, man shall. Man shall walk. Like, we're not having this paradise anymore. Like, there has to be strife. We can't have perfection. Like, that's exactly why so many of the worlds that were dead or dying happened. They got to a perfective state almost, and they were like, we don't want this anymore. There is no meaning.
I know, and I'm like, oh my god, I think we were in chat too. I think I was actually crying.
That whole sequence,
I can't handle this.
That whole sequence was phenomenal. And but then getting past that, then the entirety of level 88 is trying to figure out how can we get, because we finally learned what the Forum wanted to do. They had this ship that they were making, the spaceship that they were making.
Yeah, because apparently they've been talking to the Loporiths.
Yeah, and they've apparently been talking to the Loporiths. They were trying to figure out a plan. The original plan, and Heidelin made the moon and everything like that, was if the final days came upon us, then the plan was to have something to take a bunch of people from Aetheris and bring them to the moon. Because the moon was supposed to be built for that specifically.
Because the moon is a spaceship.
Because the moon is a spaceship.
Wasn't clear.
The moon is also a spaceship, which is interesting. Just a very massive spaceship. And, but basically what we want to do is we want to confront Medion herself. But we have to do some other things and learn some things. And we end up going into the Ethereal Sea itself because the Forum has had a way to talk to Heidelin too.
This entire time.
And we are going into the Ethereal Sea to do that ourselves, which is the 89 dungeon.
You like the color blue?
It's very blue. It's like
It's very blue.
The Atlia scope, I think the dungeon's called.
I always call it the Attilia scope, which I'm pretty sure is absolutely incorrect, but that's the only way I read it.
True that. So
it's
basically,
it's like the AT Tower, but on a much bigger scale.
Yep. And now, basically, we go through this, and it's the Ethereal Sea. This is where the souls go. So we actually
people that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yep. So literally, one of the enemies as we get to the first boss, I literally can't think of his name anymore.
Oh, you're talking about Mr. Slope guy, right?
Yeah, Slope from freaking.
Oh, I forgot his name. He's like the Griffin or something.
Yeah, it's like the Black Griffin.
Yeah,
something like that. I can't think of his name because I hate him.
Yeah, whatever. He's not important enough. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just like,
He
oh,
did-
this.
he-
I was like, oh, this fucker. It's like, I will gladly kill you again and send you to a further hell if I can.
Oh, but
Like-
no, as you're going through this dungeon, so like you run into like specific enemies or even people. Some of your people that you used to have that are dead now come back and help you briefly.
Yeah, basically, Papa Limo, our old Lalafelian friend, helped us against Ilbert. That's his fucking name. Ilbert.
Ilbert, yeah, his name was Ilbert.
Yeah. So basically Papa Limo's staff shows up, and he does a big AoE damage that kills all the other ads that's there with Ilbert, and does a lot of damage to Ilbert too itself. Basically kills him. And
Yeah, pretty much.
and then we go fight the first boss, which is actually an old
Livia.
Garland, Luvia.
Yeah, Livia, not Lucia, Livia.
Yeah, Luvia.
The one that was like really obsessed with Gaius for some reason.
Yeah, that wore the white armor.
Yeah, she was the white armored one.
Yep.
You do meet everyone's favorite Elizin, Harshafont. Doesn't actually help you fight, but he does stop for a second, gives you an attack buff and a bit of a bonus to things, and I'm like, thank you, man.
We actually we need to okay, backtrack from the dungeon, and then we'll come back to this part. There is one scene in particular where Urianger and the Loprits are talking with scientists and engineers and everything like that that's working on the ship and trying to figure stuff out, yada yada. And an old character from A Realm Reborn who died, Muin Brida, her parents show up and talk to Urianger, and that's the first time they've talked in years, basically, at that point. Or how, I shouldn't say years, just because it's years for us, technically, in terms of timeline.
It's still been a long time.
It's still been a long time in game, but it's probably been like a year at best, which is insane. And
canonically, supposedly, it's a year, but I like to think that at least 2 years have passed.
I personally like to think 2 years, because that sounds better to me. But basically, the parents of Muin Brida and Urianger start talking, and it's just such a precious moment.
Yeah,
remembering Muin Brida. I was like, God, I haven't thought about Muin Brida properly in a long time.
Oh yeah, fun fact, I think because of Endwalker, obviously Muin Brida has a little minion in-game. And they actually changed the text on it. Because originally the text was a little questionable, possibly.
Yeah, it was a little questionable, but we don't need to worry too much about that. But yeah, they did change the text on that minion.
But yeah, fun fact, they did do that.
And
I think because of the cutscene.
Yep. So basically, I wanted to get that out of the way, so now we can jump back to the dungeon. We also do see Muin Brida, because she had an axe. She does a big AoE damage to a pool that we have of enemies. And then we see Harshafont, who buffs us as we move forward to the next pool. We see Minfilia, even though she does nothing.
Well, yeah, but you're missing one boss.
And that's what I was getting to it. I wanted to get all of our allies out of the way.
Well, yeah, but Minfilia is not till after that boss.
I know. I wanted to get all of our allies out of the way. So, second boss, since I can never remember his name, I call him Mr. Cape Westwind.
It's the hardest trial of the game.
Oh yeah, 100%. Which to be fair, it's all been changed now, so
he actually might be a bit more difficult now.
I have
or at
no
least
idea.
Not so borderline easy.
Just like how they changed up the Praetorium and gave us more trial fights with actually going against La Habrea and stuff, which good changes.
Oh yeah. I haven't actually messed with it at all.
I haven't either, but still, it's got to be a good change. Maybe
but yeah,
so.
One day, but yes, Mr. Cape Westwind, he's there, and then I remember, I even was like, okay, hold on, so let's see, we fought crazy Gaius Simp, we fought hardest boss in the game, who's the last boss? I was not expecting it to be what it was.
Alright, folks, can you guess who the final boss could possibly be? I'll give you a hint, we've punched him not once, but twice this expansion already, which is strange, is it not? We're gonna punch this man a third time. It is Fandaniel, Hermes, but in this case, he is his quote-unquote favorite form, Amon.
Yeah, like, it's Amon.
Which was an interesting and fun fight.
It was
And not only that,
interesting.
we get one extra ally during this fight.
We get one more, for one brief moment. We get, wow, I forgot her name. Iceheart?
Iceheart. But in the
has
form
names.
of Shiva.
Oh, Ysayle. Her name was Ysayle.
Yeah, Ysayle. Ysayle Iceheart in the form of Shiva. She basically protects us against Amon's Curtain Call, which is a giant AoE fire move.
Which will instantly kill you if you're standing in it.
Yes. So Shiva basically comes down and gives us a giant block of ice to hide behind.
Which is great. I actually read something recently where apparently, if you're actually standing in the Shiva AoE for when that ice thing spawns, she actually pushes you back behind it, supposedly.
That's nice of her.
I'm like, oh, that's cute.
That's a good touch. And then,
well, to be fair, I don't know if it's actually maybe they ironically got pushed back because of the AoE, or like she actually will push you back. I don't know.
well, the only way to test that out is if you stand like in the front of the circle and see if it pushes you back to safety.
Yeah. You know what? If we run that dungeon again, I will be the sacrifice for science.
I accept that. It depends. Maybe we'll run it on something in particular, and maybe I'd be a better sacrifice. Who knows?
We'll see. We'll have to find out. Anyways, yeah, that happens. You punch them on. You get a moment where the most punchable face alive decides to show up separately from Amon.
Yep, it's actually Asahi, which is why we kind of brought him up.
It's the actual Asahi,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I love how the last words literally are, good, I hope we never see each other again.
Yeah, literally. But basically, Asahi shows up, and no, he's not pissed about the fact that his body was used by Fandaniel or anything like that. He's pissed that Fandaniel basically wronged Xenos. That's what he's mad about.
While in his body.
While in his body.
I'm like, your priorities are in the wrong place.
Asahi is
Whatever.
a Xenos simp.
100%. You cannot convince me otherwise. You can convince me of many other things before you can convince me of that.
Okay.
Anyways.
And then we get to move forward past that, and we finally get to talk to Eredale herself. But whenever we finally talk to her for the first time, and we get the dialogue option, I called her Venat easily.
It's like hello, Venat, and she's like, oh.
She looked so happy. I was like, ah.
Oh my god. Yeah, and you know, she's like, okay. Obviously, she gives you a lot of dialogue, but in short, she this is what she basically said. The important part is, okay. So it's true. I had this plan for escape. However, there is an option too. You have to confront Medion. However, I'm not just gonna send you there, because it is a one-way trip. If you fuck it up, there is no turning back.
Yes.
So she's like, if you can kill me, basically.
Yeah, if you can win against her, we didn't know we were gonna kill her. We just had to win a fight.
Okay, regardless, yeah, you have to defeat her. If you can defeat her, you know, the god, basically, then yes, she'll give you a way to go to Medion, out in the middle of space. Or actually, not even the middle of space, it's like the edge of space.
It's the edge of the universe, basically.
Regardless, you have to win against Hyland, or else you can't save the world. Because if you can't beat her, then how could you win against despair itself? Which, yeah, that's basically what this message is that hope is going to win against despair. This is very Danganronpa.
Yes, it really is. So basically,
Anyways.
we fight Eredale, we beat Eredale. Little did we know she was actually going to die in front of us because she had ran out of power.
Oh, God.
I was sad. I was like,
no!
we finally get to talk to you properly after all these years.
And you've been waiting for us this whole time.
She's been waiting for us this entire time.
And I'm just like, oh.
She's been waiting thousands of years.
Best mom. Also, can we talk about this for a second? Like, she's gorgeous as Eredale.
To be fair, Venat is gorgeous in her own right.
That's true, but she's really pretty as Hydaelyn. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
whoa.
Basically, she gives us this crystal, though, that has basically the path that Medion took whenever, as Venat, all those years ago, put that tracker on Medion, which will basically lead us to where Medion is, with the spaceship that the Forum was making.
Yeah, because we basically hijacked their spaceship. Okay,
Yep.
we don't actually hijack it, but we do ask for permission. Hey,
Yep.
we know this is important for your escape plot, but we're gonna hijack
We
it.
got
and actually
other
go save the
plans.
world.
We're gonna actually
We got other
save
plans.
this world.
Yeah, so you do a bunch of stuff, get on the ship. Everyone's here. By that I mean the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. You know, your group.
To be fair, another thing real quick, though, is the next issue at that point was how do we get ourselves enough fuel to actually make it to the edge of the universe? And basically, we needed a bunch of a specific type of material that was very prolific in elegant stuff. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly what it's called.
I don't remember what it's called. Adamantite.
So yeah, it's
thing.
some type of adamantite, maybe, or maybe it's some kind of elegant alloy, something, you know, whatever.
Something
But even still,
crazy.
that wasn't enough. That was not going to be enough, even though we got basically all of our friends and then some that we didn't expect to help out from all over the place. From A Realm Reborn, from Heavensward expansion people, from Stormblood expansion people, from well, not really Shadowbringers expansion people, too much. Because there was some stuff that happened in Shadowbringers actually in our world and not. Let's see, what was it? The first?
Brent.
So, yeah. Basically, we got a bunch of that material. But this still wasn't going to be enough, so the other thing that got called upon is the beast tribes that we've met through all these expansions. I don't remember if it was all of them, but it was most of them.
I do remember this. They said, okay, those with, like, strong religious intentions. Like, they actually have a god, basically.
Yeah, basically, that's what, I mean, it's basically the beast tribes, though. Of, like, we need you to basically summon your deity with the power of the Mother Crystal and send them forth and use their aether as fuel, because basically this thing ran on strong ethereal stuff and whatnot. So, whenever the ship is going to take off, there's a bright light from basically down under the Forum, and all these primals come shooting out: Ifrit, Leviathan, Garuda, Titan, Susano.
Susano, yeah.
And there was some dialogue between Garuda and Susano for whatever reason, but it was majestic.
It was amazing.
Basically, Garuda's like, why should I help man fly? And Susano's just like, ha ha ha! Like, we're here, like, I don't know exactly what he says, but he's just having a good time. And before he takes off away from Garuda, he does his "let us revel" line.
Yeah, like that iconic line.
Yeah.
From his trial.
Like, Garuda just sighs, and then she's like, yeah, and then takes off and goes into the ship, and then blam, we blast off into space.
Like, we go noob! It's not a lie, though. We go fucking fast.
Alright.
Alright, now it's time for, I think, everyone's favorite accession, what are
God.
words?
So, you know, everything's going smoothly. We're going out to the edge of the universe. And once we are close enough, lo and behold, our ship starts freaking out, and Medion is all of a sudden on the ship talking to us. Gray Medion.
Yeah, not blue.
Because she is not blue yet.
I'm blue, da-boo-dee-da-boo-die.
And so Medion's there talking about, like, oh, why do you fight? Like, all life is meant to end. I'm just giving you a means of getting out sooner and whatnot. And by far one of the creepiest things is one time where she kind of looking down, eyes closed, and then she snaps back, making a crack in her neck sound as she continues to talk, and it's like, ugh.
Classic horror movie trick.
I was like, how dare.
Okay, it got the point across very
Oh,
quick.
it definitely got the point across.
Oh man, like it's but yeah, but then we were warned that this area that she's in is completely made of dynamis. Obviously, since we are not like full-grown Asians, we are sundered versions of these past people. We can interact with dynamis. Thus, theoretically, we should be fine, right? That's wrong. So, am I allowed to talk about this because this is my man?
Oh yeah, we're going forward with this. I'm just thinking back to it all, and I'm like, the feels. Shit.
Okay, so y'all are being basically suffocated in a way. Like Meteon is suffocating you because of the lack of aether.
Quick,
And...
hey James.
Huh?
James in chat.
What?
Quick, hide your cats. It's
Are you
lunchtime.
going to eat my cats? James, no!
No.
I swear to God, if you eat my cats. Anyways, anyway, so you're being suffocated, and like y'all are all collapsing from the lack of air. And despite this, Fangrid is struggling, but he is slowly trying to approach Meteon. He pulls out his weapon. He goes for an attack, and that's when you pass out.
Yep,
like,
the camera
character
cuts.
passes
The
out.
camera cuts black as you see Fangrid go to take a swing at Meteon.
And then the ship has landed. Once you wake up, you're perfectly fine. Y'all are able to breathe. Suddenly, because Meteon has left, and y'all realize Fangrid is not there. That's suspicious. So you leave the ship. Y'all are able to breathe, even though this is the middle of space. It's all these rock platforms and shit, and you are at, wow, I forgot the name of this place.
Ultima Thule.
Ultima Thule. It's called Ultima Thule, and I think it's no exaggeration to say that this is honestly one of the best looking locations in the game.
Oh yeah.
It's
Easily.
dark, but there's like tons of stars in space. It's literally a dead sun is where you're at, basically. Because in the sky, in the upper part of the map, there is a dead sun.
Yeah, you're literally below a dead sun.
It's crazy. So you go around looking around, and you're like, what's like, are there people here? Is what's going on? And you find dragons. Actually, the first area of this place, you find dragons. But while you're also there, you're like, we still haven't found Fangrid. Where is he? Meteon shows up because she keeps being omnipresent while you're here. And she basically is like, well, he's everywhere. I mean, he is the reason why you're able to breathe. Because basically what happened is Meteon dissipated Fangrid using dynamis, I think. But
Yeah.
because his will was strong enough, she's like, it's crazy. Because, like, his heart or his soul or something is still hanging on. And before he dissipated, he said one word. Survive. And that is the reason you can walk around Ultima Thule.
Basically, since we are in a land of dynamis, it's all dynamis energy. It's the energy of emotions. If, again, as we mentioned before, if the emotion is strong enough, the power can be used, even if we can't physically manipulate it. If it's strong enough, it'll happen.
Yeah, which is. I'm sorry. Okay, look, I will admit it. I'm a Fangrid simp. At me, please. Actually, please don't at me. I'm a fragile human being.
No. At her. Do it.
No, please don't.
No.
Please don't.
Okay, so do you want me to take the next one then?
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that basically this has been established. Strong enough emotions can affect this area.
Yep. And we now know Fangrid is more or less dead.
Gone. Gone.
even though thanks to his wish, his power of emotion for us to literally survive, we can continue forward. So anyway, we're now talking with the dragons that are there. These are literally dragons that aren't real. They do not exist. They are manifestations that are made through like dynamis and everything like that. And it's literally dragons from the dragon planet that is dead. where
Yeah, it's actually where
Midgard
Midgard
Sormer.
is from.
Yeah, it's where Midgard Sormer is from, because
Yeah,
that
because
planet
turns
was
out
dying.
dragons are aliens.
Yep. So basically, what happens with that is we're basically trying to figure out how to move forward, and we're talking with these dragons, some of them more open than others. We find out why they were dying, what was happening. They lost a war to the Omnicrons, which is a machine race that we will get to in a bit, because they do come back. And
Yeah.
so, and basically the dragons lost their pride, and from that point onward things just weren't going well. Like literally babies were just dying in the egg and everything like that. And
Waters were polluted.
yeah,
no
water's
one-
polluted.
They got subjugated by the Omnicrons. Like, they had no real reason to live. The pride as a dragon race was gone.
Yeah, the pride of the dragon race was gone. They had nothing. So basically we end up finally talking to one particular dragon whose emotion is very strong with all of this. And
I think that dragon's name was literally called All End, actually. I remember
yeah,
this.
something like that. And so, who better to talk to a dragon than our dragoon man himself, Estinian, that is with us.
The one who has probably the biggest amount of beef with any dragon, but has still decided to be friends with them.
Estinian talked to this dragon. He mentioned everything that happened with the Dragon Song War and everything like that. The fact that Estinian lost his family and all that stuff. He even said perhaps they'd still be alive if Midgard Sormer had never even appeared on Aetheris and everything like that.
Yeah.
And basically, Estinian gets this dragon so riled up that it then breaks out into a bunch of basically black-gray Meteons, and this swarm basically around Estinian. Estinian's saying, "Stay back." And Alphino is freaking out about it, obviously, because we know what happened to Fangrid. What's about to happen to Estinian? Probably the same thing. Estinian does get dissipated, just like Fangrid did. But then there is a current of wind that shows us the direction and gives us a way to move forward in Ultimate Duel.
Yeah, so basically what's happening is people if you can counteract the negative strong emotions with your own, or not like your own negative, but like basically if you can counter it, then the way forward will then start to appear. It's basically what's happening.
Yes.
Oh man, even look, I'll admit I'm not the absolute biggest fan of Estinian. I do like him, but he's definitely not my favorite.
Estinian is a fucking guy. You kidding me?
He is a guy though. He is a bro though.
He is awesome.
He's great.
So, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that he's actually a part of actual story now.
Oh yeah.
And not just around in Heaven's Ward. Like he's with us.
So yeah,
He's a
those
scion.
were the Dravanians. They were the dragons because the way opens to a new section.
Yeah, you're definitely getting this section.
Okay, because honestly, these are my favorite out of the people you run into here. These are my favorite. They are referred to as the Ea. EA, that's how it's spelled. They're little ghosty things. They look like little blobby little plasma ghosts. They all look exactly the same, and that's not me trying to be racist towards them. They straight up all look the same. So this group of people that you run into, their environment is very deserty, which is kind of cool, but they see you. You run into one of them, and they go, "Oh my god, y'all have bodies!" And we're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. What's weird about that?" Because these little ghosties are like the souls of people. Like, they're people, the Ea. You learn that this group of people were very advanced in their knowledge and their, like, understanding of science, right? And the conclusion that they came to, which is actually the start of their despair, was because in the past, they learned how to separate body from soul to basically live indefinitely. Because the body is the reason you die. Your soul
Basically
can live
become
on.
immortal.
Yeah, they're basically immortal. But they came to a conclusion, because they're very science-based, is that the heat death of the universe is happening. And that the universe is gradually growing colder. And
because
over time,
it's
it will
forever
become an
expanding.
eternal ice age.
Yeah.
Because it's forever expanding.
Which is an actual real-life theory, by the way.
It is! That's why I find these people so fascinating. That they look like little funny jelly dudes. I love them. But no, like, they realize, okay, like, is there a way to reverse this? Because they even were like, well, even if we die, if people will come back afterwards, then our knowledge is still worth it. But they came to the conclusion that this eternal ice age that may eventually happen to the universe means that literally no life will happen. Thus, the knowledge that they have gained is completely useless. And they curse the fact that they are immortal, and thus can't actually die.
Yep.
Thus, they want bodies of their own, so they can actually achieve a permanent death.
Yeah, because apparently they can kind of, like, make themselves not exist, but they believe it's not a true death. So they don't want to do that.
Yeah, so they're just kind of there forever, just cursed with this knowledge that the heat death of the universe
And again,
is going to
keep
happen.
in mind, everything that we meet in this place is not actually there/real. They're manifestations.
Like, of what the world was like. So, like,
Yes.
they're kind of based on people, but they're not the real ones.
Yeah, they're not the real ones. They just happen to exist because of Meteon and the manifestations using Dynamis and everything like that.
So, obviously, the emotion here is that, like, what's the point in gaining knowledge if you can't use it, right? So, who better to confront people than the one person who wishes to attain as much knowledge as possible? Best girl, Y'shtola.
Yep.
And Urianger.
And Urianger, because he decides to join, which still confused because I was thinking at this point, I was like, oh shit, we're literally going to lose half of our scions, and then we're going to be left with 4 to do, like, the dungeon and everything like that. I was like, we're actually having people die. And then the moment Urianger joined Y'shtola to move past this part, I was like, well, that blows that out of the water. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, so the two people who are the most knowledgeable dissipate this emotion of just what's the point of the world again, and the way opens to a new area. I guess you would probably be better suited for this one too.
I guess I will take this one back over.
Yeah.
So we move to the next area thanks to Urianger and Y'shtola's sacrifice with their emotion, which allows us to meet with the machine race that was mentioned earlier, the Omnicrons.
Yeah,
And
I like
basically,
the little robots.
yeah, and basically what ends up happening, you know, again, we go there, we're talking with them. They're very interesting. Basically, they're all on standby, because Omnicron was made as a race. It was a race initially of people, but they learned how to, I believe, augment themselves and then just eventually become full-on machinery.
Yeah, because I think they explained it as they were a very weak race.
Yes,
but
they were
wished
very
to
weak.
stop being weak.
Yep.
And thus they went to augmentation and shit.
Yep. They wished to stop being weak, and they ended up becoming, like, the most powerful race in existence. The Omnicrons were basically unstoppable. And
They even got rid of the dragons. I
yeah,
think.
they even beat the dragons, and the dragons were believed to be one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, at one point in time. And so, with the Omnicrons, they ended up becoming full-on machines. The world ended up being, like, full machine, and everything like that. And what ended up happening is that one robot in particular was showing signs that didn't make sense, because since they're on standby, they're just kind of doing whatever at the time, so that way they're ready for whatever the next war is, whenever they're ready to fight. But one robot in particular is kind of just off doing whatever, showing different signs of some kind of emotion, which shouldn't make sense with these robots, because they made themselves full robot. They shouldn't have these emotions. So what ended up happening is we follow this robot to a specific location, and what the Omnicrons would do is that they would take samples from worlds that they conquered and everything like that, and they would keep these things alive using machinery, basically augmenting it. And we're looking at this tree that is living, even though it's hooked up to all these machines that's helping it live, and the robot is kind of questioning it. It's just like, why does it continue to live? Like, whenever it probably shouldn't. So the fact that a robot is having questions, thoughts that don't make sense based on how an AI should work. This is basically the robot that we have to talk to and whatnot and overcome the emotion of.
Yeah, because basically this idea of like, okay, well, now that we've become the rulers of the universe, we can beat any enemy, and our only purpose was to just do war. What do you do when there's no war?
Yeah, what do you do whenever you have no war? Nothing else to accomplish, nothing else to conquer, even.
Yeah.
And basically, who better to talk to this robot in particular with overcoming an emotion than someone who had to go on 100 years in the first, leading the Crystarium through the world that Shadowbringers was, in Grahatia.
Yeah.
He was a he was a leader and everything like that. He was able to move these people forward and eventually get us there, and we saved their world too, the Warrior of Darkness and Shadowbringers.
Alright.
Which is fantastic in of itself, and pretty much everybody loves Grahatia. I don't know anybody who doesn't love Grahatia that plays Final Fantasy XIV.
So, I'd like to point out that, this whole time, obviously there's music going on. It's very subtle, it's very quiet. But by the time you get here, the song is both louder and actually has lyrics. Again. Which admittedly...
That's the thing, I don't think it goes into full effect until the next one.
No, it's there.
It is Graha, it is Graha.
Yeah, it's Graha. I mean, it kind of is sort of maybe getting a little louder, but, like, it doesn't kick in fully until Graha makes his sacrifice.
Yeah, so basically, Graha makes a sacrifice, and being the Crystal Exarch that he was, he made this whole crystal bridge, basically going up.
I'm just like, oh my god, I
to take us to the next area.
Oh, so awesome. So, that happens. You go across this crystal path. At this point, y'all are all crying, right? You've lost everyone. It's you, Alpha and Alize. You are the only three remaining.
You and the twins.
You and the twins. You go up this path, and you land at the final spot, which is the smallest area of this area, and it is completely dead. There is literally no one there. Except for you, Alpha Alize, and Medion. Medion shows up, because of course she does. And, because while you're there at all these other places, you are kind of figuring out, like, okay, what caused this world to, like, why are they in despair, right? But there's no one here at this one. So what's the despair? And you come to the conclusion that the despair is actually Medion, because this Medion is not the Medion you've been talking to. This is a different one.
Yep.
Or you'll come to that conclusion, like, wait, this isn't the same Medion. So, I think I've seen this interpreted in different ways. I've seen two different ways. I've seen one, that when Medion talked to the people here, that because of whatever answer they gave, the emotion was so strong that she felt that she accidentally annihilated them all. Or it was already like that when she got there.
Yep.
It's either one of those. But even then, the despair Medion felt was great. And that's the despair that they need to come over. I actually don't know how you explain this one, because this one's a bit strange by comparison.
It is a little stranger. Basically, for whatever reason, this Medion is blocking the way of it's just, like, in general despair. Literally, like, this world clearly had people, but it's just non-existent now. Like,
yeah, because you do find clues of, like, hey, there's, like, cups and plates and stuff, like, because it looks like kind of like a little bar area, almost, like a little outdoor bar area, and, like, it looks like people were there.
But you're looking around, you're trying to think of ideas and investigate, and you eventually talk to Alphino and Alize, and Alphino ends up coming to the conclusion, because of course Alphino comes to the conclusion, because he's a smart little cookie.
Yeah, of course so. But no, y'all come to the conclusion that, like, okay, no, both of us together, me and Alphino and Alize, can both overcome the despair for Meteon.
And literally, our dialogue options are just like, literally, no, I will not let you, or like, I promised your parents
like
that you would be okay.
Can't do that. And if y'all both are gone, then oh man. But those two together overcome the despair of Meteon, and God.
And then the song gets louder. I think, honestly, it felt like it got louder again after Alphino and Alize.
I'm just like, stop.
Oh my god.
You see a little brief cutscene back on our planet, and everyone's like, oh, I hope they're okay. And then someone hurries up and they're like, hey, this is gonna be insane to say, but someone wishes to speak to you, Kryl, because you're currently the only one here associated with the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. Someone wishes to speak to you. They've come through customs, and you don't see anything. It just cuts.
It shows Kryl's face, and she looks surprised and shocked. It's like, okay, but you don't see who showed up.
I mean, we'll get to that one.
We'll get to that in a bit. Trust us.
Yeah, we'll get there. So it cuts back to you. You're in this place. You're all alone. You have no allies with you. All of the allies you did have are, for all intents and purposes, gone. It is dead silent. Text shows up on the screen. I don't exactly remember what it says, but it basically says, the fate of the universe is literally on your shoulders. It is a heavy burden to carry, and yet you still have the strength to keep walking.
And then
you literally have to walk your way up to Meteon.
Yeah, and then music is in full effect, loud, lyrics very clear, and everything. And you are literally under the status effect Endwalker, as you can only walk forward, and you're going through these little shadowy looking figures that are playing dialogue from the past, from other portions of the game. There's one in particular that was Ardbert, and I'm like, damn it.
Chills, man.
Like, if you did not feel something during this section, I don't know how you feel anything.
I will say the only reason I'm bitter about this is because I actually had to go to work, and I literally reached this part, and I literally had to go right before I had to start walking.
Yeah.
I was so mad!
So you gotta go to work with emotions, and you're like,
I literally was about to cry. Thank God it was a short shift that day, because I was like, no, I gotta come home and finish this.
Oh my god, I was sad as fuck. Basically, whenever Alphino and Alize did their sacrifice, there was basically a rainbow staircase that appeared that took us to the next place that we needed to go. So we literally have to walk all the way over to that rainbow staircase, up some rocks, leading to a flat spot directly underneath the dead sun, and Meteon is just there. So then we start talking with Meteon.
Yeah,
again.
And honestly, I mean, it's more back and forth of, what's the point? The universe is just destined to die. I'm just gonna kill it faster. But you, because Hydaelyn gave you, because you have this crystal thing.
You have the crystal of Azem, and Hydaelyn re-imbued it with power.
Yeah, and this power allows you to summon people, basically. Yep. And because you don't know who, because literally the answer is right above you. You can't reach it. So to get there, it's pretty much, okay, I need to summon people who can fix this problem, and who better to summon than our best friends, Emetselk and Hythlodaeus.
We're bringing them out of the ethereal sea just to be like, hey, need your help here.
So good. They talk some smack to Meteon, like, no, the world's not useless. There is meaning in life. Also, not to mention, Emetselk is like, I can't believe that, like, I went through all of Endwalker, or went through all of Shadowbringers, thinking that I was doing the correct thing. Turns out I wasn't, and I remembered when I returned to the Ethereal Sea. I am mad at myself.
Yeah, because that's something. Despite what happens to you in your life, whenever you return to the Ethereal Sea, you basically will remember. You can remember pretty much anything about your life.
Yeah, and,
or lives.
Oh my god. Yeah, and Emma Sock's like, I can't believe this happened. But okay, I'm here to correct my mistake.
And he basically tells us to think about something. Whatever.
He tells us to, like, think of something, like, think of the way forward. Think of the thing that's gonna help you go forward. And you do, and it's literally a whole field of Elpis flowers, but all of them are bright white and, like, rainbow shining. They're not black, full of despair. They are full of hope.
Yeah, which showed, even out here, in this dead part of space, these flowers represents hope, basically.
Yeah.
And still living. And Hermes had a line to Medion later on, before Medion became Hot Topic Medion. And that was, he wanted to show Medion the world, and upon her return, he was like, what should I give you? And he was like, yes, a flower, a nice beautiful flower on Medion's return. And that resonated with Medion. She fell down, gave in.
She starts crying.
Yeah, gave in. She disappeared, and then the dead sun basically kind of opens up.
It was a tumor.
It's like a tumor from the dead sun. And
Gross.
then Emmett Silk and Hythlodaeus kind of step to the side, and Emmett Silk's like, well, why don't you go ahead and do what you need to do and summon your allies? And so we use the power of the Crystal of Azem, and bam, everybody's back that we had just lost on our way to the top here.
I'm so happy.
Everybody is back. Thancred,
I'm like, yes,
Astinian,
they're all back.
Yastola, Urianger, Grahatia, Alphino, Alize.
I was like, I'm so glad to meet you. And then your crystal stops glowing because it no longer has the magic. You have used all of it. You cannot summon anyone like that ever again.
And then, basically, we kind of look at each other, it's like, yes, very happy, and whatnot. And then you see this kind of glowing effect coming from Emmett Silk and Hythlodaeus. And I think Alize is the first one to say something. It's like, you're not staying with us? And basically what they're doing is they're dissipating themselves.
They're returning to the Ethereal Sea.
They're returning to the Ethereal Sea.
Them, they weren't actually summoned. You just pulled their soul out temporarily.
Yep. And it's basically just like, they are just like, it's also kind of a passing of the torch in a way. It's like, we, as the sundered version, so to speak, will carry on, and we'll be able to protect the world and whatnot. But Emmett Silk is also kind of calling us out. He's like, as someone who was basically the Azem, it's like, you know very little about your actual world itself and the shards and whatnot.
Yeah, the different reflections of the source.
Yeah, so he basically challenges us at that point, like, hey, you need to go out. And before he disappears, he gives us that fucking smile again. It's like, god damn it.
It's the same as the Shadowbringers one.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, oh man, damn it, dude. He literally basically went, hey, get on my level, noob, and he peaced out.
Yeah. And thus,
he was a little nicer about it. But...
Yep. And thus we have but a single dungeon, a single trial, and a single instance left.
Oh, my soul. This was not my intention to literally go step by step, but honestly, Endwalker's so good, we have to mention it.
Here's the thing. I'm not gonna lie, before we were doing this, it's like, fuck, we literally played Endwalker when it came out, the original story. So within the first, week
of Endwalker... It took me 2 weeks total, max, but I definitely was in the first week.
So you gotta think, this was almost 6 months ago that we actually played it, and we were kind of wondering if we would actually be able to remember everything.
Turns out we still can.
Turns out we still can, because whenever it's like, thinking about it off the top of your head, it's like, we might not be able to remember everything. But as we talk about it, we remember.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it impacted too much.
So
But that's another reason why we're on Twitch now. We can talk about this as long as we want.
Anyways, so now you go through the next dungeon, which is the Dead Ends, is what it's called. And this dungeon is also really fascinating. I actually like this dungeon a lot. Not even just like mechanically, but like I actually really liked each part, because let's be real, each dungeon you go through is kind of cut into 3 parts. The opening, first boss, then the next part, boss, next part, final boss, right?
Yep.
They're very structured, not bad, but it is very samey.
But this...
They actually use that idea pretty well here, because pretty much what Medion is doing is she's like, I'm gonna show you some of these worlds that we found that fell into despair. And, can we talk about the first one now? That she shows you?
Yep, you get the first one.
Oh my god. Ugh, okay. So, the first place she shows you is a place that was, it used to, because, you know, as you're going through this, similar to the dungeon Amarant, Medion is narrating as you're going through this dungeon. Not to mention, you can find little pieces of little, like, notes that are left around that you could read. I highly recommend that you read them. Preferably go into, like, Explorer mode and go read them. Because we did that once, because we were bored, and we were very, very curious. So, the first world, according to Medion, was a beautiful blue star, because it was a really pretty ocean planet from the architecture and stuff, that was just completely destroyed by disease. Like, the sky is clouded over, it's gross, veiny looking, it looks like skin, honestly. Like, it's just covered, there's goop water everywhere. Even as you're walking through, some of the puddles actually inflict, like, toxosis on you. Like, you literally get poisoned just stepping in it. Everything is dying. Everything's decaying. It is disgusting. I could go on. Also, a nice touch is that all the enemies that you're encountering are inflicted with, disease. Every single one of them. Even the boss.
Yep.
And all these enemies, like, they're literally, like, being, like, morphed by this, like, disease that came over. I don't know what it is, honestly, but it's gross. It's clearly affecting everything. And all these people are, like, wishing to die because it's so miserable. They'd rather die than live with this disease. Even the boss is, like, begging, like, don't leave me alone. I don't want to die alone.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
It literally has a move where, like, it's one of those mechanics where, like, you have to stand with somebody. Like, it doesn't want to die alone.
Yeah, it legitimately doesn't want to die alone. Which is sad as fuck.
Oh, man. It's disgusting.
Anything else you want to mention about the first part?
I wished I actually saw what it used to look like.
Yeah, that's true. I would love to see what that world would look like if it wasn't just absolutely ravaged by disease and everything, and how it's just all black.
It's just like, oh, it's horrible.
Alright, so
you can go to the next part.
The second world that is shown to us in the Dead Ends dungeon is a world that was destroyed by war. Literally, like, inner war and everything else, and there's even a boss called the Peacekeeper at the end. The boss is called the Peacekeeper, which is hilarious to me.
It looks like a Metal Gear, honestly.
Yeah, because it got the peace all right by killing everything. But basically, we're following this one particular soldier that we happen to see, because it's like a futuristic world too. On top of that,
yeah, like they're all in like these weird like Tron-esque suits.
Yeah, but there's this one particular soldier that we see kind of the entire way through the second part here of this dungeon.
Yeah.
And we're just witnessing everything. There's explosions. Everything is just black everywhere because, again, just everything's destroyed. Everything is ravaged by this war. And after we go through it, it's like, I'm curious like what this world could have looked like as well without all this war. But basically, as we're following this soldier and we eventually beat the Peacekeeper boss at the end of this second area, we see the soldier one more time, and he basically goes to this thing to activate it, and it fires off absolute fuckload of missiles and just explosions everywhere out on the horizon that we can see. and he's
Yeah,
like,
he
it's like I killed them all. I killed them all. He's probably the last one on that world right then and there.
yeah, like he literally fired the nukes and nuked the entire planet.
Pretty much, like, he's probably the last one in existence at that specific moment in time, for all we know.
Yeah, so who knows what happened to him?
Which
We don't know.
I mean, if you're the last one in existence, probably not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Don't want
But
to think about
admittedly-
that too much. There's already enough spiritual depression as is.
You mean the spatial distortion portals?
Yeah.
that
By
you
the
go
way,
through?
every time you go to a different location, there's something called spatial distortion that you have to click on to basically teleport to that next area. I call it spiritual depression because I think it's funny that way.
Well, that you misread it. You thought it said spiritual depression, did you not?
I think part of me legitimately thought it said spiritual depression because, you know, it made sense.
I will admit, one thing I found interesting is, I don't know if this was intentional, but the first boss, you know, the weird, goopy, ill, gross monster, it has mechanics where it wants you to stay close, but then this one, whether by design or intention, I don't know, actually kind of has gimmicks that actually force you to stay away from each other, because even if you stay with each other, you each get an AoE, and you need to stay away. That's why I purposely will move myself away, because I know it's coming.
Oh, yeah.
I found that interesting, because in a way, maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but like, in a way, war does tend to separate people.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know if that was intentional or not.
But it can,
But it is interesting.
It can bring people together too, but that's not a conversation for today. On to the third area.
Yeah. Third area. This one also was interesting. One, because all these first two areas are like bleak and dark, right? This one is bright yellow. Like, it hurt my eyes.
Although,
I was like, oh.
One quick little point, because I just didn't know if you might get to it, just real quick. If you look off the edge of the map that you are on, everything down below you just looks desolate.
Like, it's like branches and trees and destroyed buildings.
It's just kind of it's kind of just gray below you. Like, there's nothing really going on.
It's a bright blue, starry sky. The grass, the trees, everything is yellow. The architecture is pure white. This world is a world where they actually achieved perfection. They did it. They reached the answer to the universe. They are perfect beings. They don't want to be there anymore. There's no goal in life. They died due to apathy, basically.
Yeah.
They literally created a monster that would kill them gently to give them a gentle end to release them from perpetual existence of having no goals.
Yeah, it's basically just an instant, like, okay, you can be taken away now.
Yeah, just, your time's come.
It
Here you go.
instantly be dissipated.
Yeah, like, no pain. Just gone.
But the thing is that, like, the monster itself doesn't, like, do it to everybody right away. It's as if it, like, happens in increments for some reason.
Yeah, because some of these NPCs that are just running around are like, oh yes, my time has come, and then the creature keeps going. It's like, no, wait, come back, and it's like, wow, that's depressing. That you're literally wishing for death, not because like you're in pain, but just because
there's no real reason to exist.
You feel nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel nothing.
They have no strife. They have no goal.
Yeah, like they've solved everything. There's no disease. There's no war. There's no anything. It's depressing.
Yep.
Which I'll admit, I find it funny that even this boss, all of its attacks, even though they hit like a fucking truck, it does it like gently. Like, it's like light blast, or it's like a sweep of its wings. Like, it doesn't actually punch you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like everything is meant to be like, yeah, if you get hit by it, it's going to do a lot of damage to you and whatnot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like the names of the attacks and everything like that, like the way it moves is kind of graceful and light.
Yeah, like,
It's very
I'm
interesting.
pretty sure the tank buster is literally called Pity.
Something like that.
If I remember correct. I think it's something like that.
I don't know.
Or like Warm Embrace or whatever.
Right. So I do want to break away from the story of it, because basically we beat this boss and we will carry on. But in this in-between section, I have something I want to say about this dungeon.
What's
It is a myth. There is a minion. There is a minion that is supposed to drop at the end of this dungeon that is Bird Daughter. It's literally called Starbird. It's supposed to be Meteon. This minion is supposed to drop at this dungeon. I have farmed this dungeon multiple times. It's a myth. I don't think it exists. I'm calling bullshit.
I do too. Oh my god. Like, here's the thing. If we at least saw it drop, fine. I would accept not getting it if I at least saw it every so often. But we have literally never seen it.
We have never seen it drop.
Never.
There's certain times where I've done it solo. There's certain times where Jess has done it solo. We have not seen the Meteon Bird minion drop a single time. Neither of us. And I'm sure we're not the only people. But even still, I think it's a myth.
Like, I think it is. It's a myth. I don't know how people are getting it.
Honestly, at this point, I want it to be on the market board just so I can pay 2 million gil for it. Because I'm tired of it.
Honestly, every other minion that drops from these dungeons is viable off the market board, but not the Starbird.
I don't think
Why?
I don't think Caduceus is actually.
Okay, maybe not that one. Okay, but Caduceus is not the one everyone wants. Everyone wants Starbird.
Caduceus is nice though. I have Caduceus.
I don't. I haven't seen it drop.
Caduceus drops from Caduceus Hyper Parade, by the way. It's a little snake with like a bandana around.
It's cute, but even then,
like it.
no, Starbird. I am so. You know what?
You want to get on Final Fantasy 14 after this and try?
I might want to try. You know what? I have no luck in Genshin. Maybe I'll have luck in Final Fantasy.
Maybe so, but yeah, I wanted to get that off my chest because my god, is it irritating.
It is. I'm so mad. Anyway,
Alright, so yes, we finished the dead ends.
Okay, so you beat the dead ends, which, by the way, beating this boss actually changes the environment. It actually goes bleak suddenly. Like, the trees are all dead, the sky's purple, like, it's bleak now. Again.
Yeah, there was a giant, almost probably like mother tree that was just completely, like, bright blue leaves.
Oh, this area is bright as hell.
And yeah, after we beat the boss, all the gold grass, gone. Blue, beautiful tree, gone.
Yeah, it's just dead now.
It's just space around us.
Which is fun. So you meet Meteon. She's here. She's, again, she's doing the, why are you still here? We're really gonna keep doing this? Yes, we are. Then she turns into her final form.
Which is known as the End Singer.
Because she has the song of the end, basically. So,
pretty
End
much.
Singer. I think it's important to mention, we didn't mention this, but Moonbreeda's parents gave us this device that's pretty much what it is if you press it, it will teleport all of you to a location, in this case, the ship, in case of danger. You can just go poof and come right back. The End Singer fucking everybody up. Like,
fucking up our shit. All of us. Every single one.
Like, all of us, yeah, and we're like, shit. And, like, literally, like, tries to do this explosion, and you're like, oh my god, if that connects, literally everyone's gonna die. And then you hit the bright idea to click that switch and poof everyone out of there. Alize sees it, is like, no, wait!
Yeah, basically, we poof everybody out, but we stay behind.
Yeah, because we're the protagonist, of course we do.
And the End Singer's like, okay, so you want to do this alone or whatever.
Yeah, which... I think it's actually important to mention, in Endwalker, we actually got new animations for our sheath and draw of our weapons. Granted, they are separate emotes, I don't know why. But they did put these new animations to use in the cutscenes.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, very distinctly, like, you know, you pull out your weapon, and I'm just like...
It's like, yeah, I'll take you on by myself.
Which, that has to be kind of funny when you pull out a book.
It's like, yeah, I'll beat you with the power of knowledge.
I don't know, it's just... Man. And then, the sky starts to crack.
You basically hear this thud. Thud. It's like the spatial area in which you are in is being smacked into. And we're like, End Singer's like, what is happening? And then it starts cracking. Cracks bigger. Cracks bigger. And all of a sudden, big ass dragon comes through. It is Shinryu. But not really Shinryu.
It's not actually Shinryu. It's, It's Xenos.
It is Xenos as Shinryu.
It's like, you can just do that now?
Basically, the person that appeared and needed to talk to Kryle, it was Xenos. He wanted to
He got through customs in Charlian despite being like 8 feet tall.
He wanted to use the last of what was left of the Mother Crystal to basically summon Shinryu and put himself within Shinryu and come for us. And whenever he gets there, he basically immediately takes to us. He's like, "So I take it this is your prey. But why does it still stand? Surely it is no match for you." It's like, how about you stop antagonizing me?
You shut the fuck up before I stab you with this rapier.
And basically it's like, we're like, I don't want your help, but it's just like, well, you're gonna get the help anyway. So we literally hop on Xenos' back as we fly forward to take on the Endsinger.
Yeah, so like the platform is like this like magical like circle platform on top of Shinryu.
Yep. And it does the same thing that it did in Shadowbringers, and even with like Zodiark, where we kind of like summon forth people, where it has these beams and stuff. Which, by the way, I still love. They may have keep doing it, but I love it. It looks awesome.
It does look great.
And
so
then
you fight the Endsinger, which by the way, I remember Drac. I did watch his reactions to Endwalker. At one point, it is mandatory that you use a tank limit break, or else you will die.
Yep.
It is mandatory.
They did that once in Shadowbringers too, in 5.3.
They did. It is mandatory to do it, and then when you do that, Medion, or the Endsinger's like, Dynamis. And if you hadn't already figured it out, limit breaks now have a lore for why they happen. It is you using the power of Dynamis.
Yep. Who would have thought?
And I'm like, oh damn, okay. Even limit breaks have a lore reason now.
Which is kind of cool in its own way. But basically, you have to use the tank LB to survive the big attack that the Endsinger does. But the Endsinger has had a mechanic throughout this fight where she will rewind something that just happened and then make it happen again. She does the same thing with this big move, and it's like, oh, I can't LB3 again.
Yeah, like
so whenever it comes down, the screen goes black. And then it cuts to everybody back on the ship, all of our friends praying for us, basically. It does the whole scene, like if you've seen cutscenes from A Realm Reborn, whenever Fangrid was at his place praying, or Y'shtola was at her place praying, it's the exact same positions as then that they did just now, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, like it's a callback.
As a long-time player, especially.
Yeah, but even then, it's just a cool moment that they're literally praying to make sure that you're fine, and it works.
Yeah, literally them praying basically gives us this buff and everything, and we survive. And then the Endsinger gets desperate. She's literally just swinging now. Just literally just swinging, just trying to do whatever damage. And it's like, nah, you're going down.
Bitch. I'm sorry, Medion.
It's not your fault, Medion. It's Hermes' fault, ultimately. But
Hermes didn't mean it, though.
Hermes didn't mean it, though. That's the thing. It was just a flawed question.
Very, very flawed. But no, so you use the power of friendship to...
And Dynamis, I guess.
And Dynamis, yeah. You use Dynamis. And you beat the Endsinger. And then you land in the middle of this really dark blue void. Which, where is it at this point? I don't know.
Yeah, it's literally like, wherever you land, it's literally just blackness, like, on the ground. I have no idea where exactly you're landing. And you can see a sun in the distance, like, as if it was rising or setting. But that's it. That's all you can see. And you have a whole moment with Medion as Xenos flies down, comes out of Shinryu form, and goes back to his form. Luckily wearing clothes.
I have to point out that this whole sequence that we're about to explain, Xenos was watching this the entire time and did nothing.
That's the thing, because at the end of the day, Xenos wanted to fight us, but he wasn't going to cheap shot. He wasn't going to, he wanted to fight us legitimately. He wanted to win a legit fight with us.
So you have a talk with Medion, and she does the thing that I'm assuming she's been doing to everyone, where she's like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm at the end of my journey. I want to hear you. Like, I want to hear your words, share your feelings, know your thoughts, or whatever the hear, feel, think thing.
And basically, we hold her hands, and then she has some tears run down as we kind of think of some of our thoughts. And she was like, I see the struggle, the willingness to do what you need to do, and stuff like that. And she sees that there's meaning. She sees that there's meaning.
Yeah.
And then she goes back to Bluebird Daughter that we love.
Yeah, she like basically lights up the whole area, which was honestly, I have a ton of screenshots from this place. I literally went back in the cutscene to screenshot some of this stuff. And it was really pretty. And
basically what she does is she does the opposite of what she's been doing for these thousands of years. And she sings a song to send out for life to exist in places rather than die.
Yeah, and good shit.
And then she's like, if you follow me, I can take you back to your friends and everything like that. And she flies off, and there's these sparkles. But there is some unfinished business behind us.
Yes, because if there's one thing Xenos has, it's a murder boner. Specifically for us. Okay, maybe not a murder one, but he certainly wants to fight us.
He wants to fight us, and he wants to win.
To be fair, I'm going to admit this. I have never been the biggest fan of Xenos. I thought he was interesting. I liked how he was a threat, but I did not like him personally.
See, that's the thing, though. In Stormblood, initially, it's like, yeah, he's fine. He's a clear threat. He needs to be dealt with. Yada, yada. But whenever he was brought back, it's like, okay, this is a little much. So everybody hated that. But then, this story in Endwalker, writing him through this portion, definitely helped out a lot. It made me not hate him as much, because it shows more of him in a proper way.
Oh yeah.
And he was well written for what he is.
Here's the thing. He wanted to fight us. But then he came to a conclusion. He's like, okay, well here's my question. Why have you been fighting me? What's the reason? Because I know my reason for fighting you, but why did you fight me? And he came to the conclusion that the real reason we've been fighting him, it's not because we're doing it for sport, it's because he was a threat, and we needed to get rid of him. We didn't do it for fun, we did it because it's a job. And he realized that.
Yep.
And he's like, okay, we don't fight for the same reasons. However, I'm still going to ask you for this fight.
So yeah, basically most villains, it's like, oh yeah, they want world domination and whatnot, but obviously we're in the way. In this case, world domination was in the way of getting to us for Xenos.
Yeah, it's interesting when the main villain's goal is you, rather than like you just happen to be in the way, thus that's the reason they're going after you.
Yes.
Like it's kind of interesting that like his goal really was you. Like, dang, he's a very persistent stalker.
Yep. So basically, in this void-like area that we're in space, it's time to throw hands with this man, figuratively and literally.
You literally throw hands. Oh my god.
So basically, it's a whole instance where you got to fight Xenos. You have to have a test of your reflexes and stuff. You know.
I changed my limit break macro for Gunbreaker to that, by the way.
Yeah, a test of your reflexes.
I changed it to that.
Yeah, your Super Bowl line.
Yeah, I changed Super Bowl line.
And so basically, you end up fighting him. Honestly, a pretty decent instance, I gotta say.
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I liked that instance a lot. That was fun.
I mean, it's kind of impossible to die because they literally give you a buff that literally can't kill you.
That's the thing, though. You do have a limited number, so you can die.
But to be fair, there is at least one instance where you are mandatory will lose one. But even then, like, it's pretty easy.
Plus they do give you multiple. Like, basically, you have to die, like, I think it's like 7 times.
Yeah.
You have to die 7 times to lose, and one of them's so make it 6 times.
Yeah. Regardless, yeah. Even then, cool instance. It literally ends in a fist fight.
Yeah, it literally ends in a fist fight.
I have to see this cutscene on Lullafell.
Oh, I've watched it. It's hilarious. But you literally break out into a fist fight with Xenos. You two are literally on your last leg, and it eventually comes to Xenos charging up a punch, slow-mo, you're charging up a punch, and you connect. Xenos falls back, and he's just there on his back, and you end up falling over on your back afterwards. But you were the last person standing at first. You are the victor. And you are
Hell
both
yeah.
literally dying right there.
Great shit.
Xenos is monologuing. You're having images of places and stuff and people.
You're literally having, like, your last thoughts, basically.
Because you are literally dying as well.
Yeah, it's great.
And Xeno said something that impacted me, but I can't remember what it was.
I know at one point he literally was like, was this journey worth it?
Basically. Yeah, he said the same thing that Venat asked us. It's just like, has this journey been worth it kind of deal? And I was like, fuck, that hits hard.
I kind of like the idea that, like, our character doesn't actually give an answer.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing. It's worth it.
I mean, personally, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But, not everyone would say that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. And what ends up happening is we're about to die. All of a sudden, we see, like, a little sparkle, and the same remote that we used to send everybody back fell down, hit the button as it landed, started beeping, and then we get teleported away, and the last shot we see of that area is Xenos' just body as it starts to pan a little bit, and just darkness around. Yeah, and then that's it. Xenos is gone.
Yeah, we just left Xenos at the end of space.
And basically the next thing that happens is we're on the ship, we're being healed, everybody's kind of freaking out, Alize's crying.
Like, she's like crying, like holding our hand, like, no, please don't die. I think. I mean, she was basically crying over us.
Yeah, she was crying over us. Everyone else was looking worried. Ariane and Alphino were treating us and whatnot. And we eventually open up our eyes. And I love one of the first dialogue options being like, is everyone okay? And Graha's like, you are the last person that gets to say that.
You are the absolute last person.
Yeah, Graha's crying too. Such a good scene.
It's good. Like, Baker's trying to play it cool, but like he, clearly was worried.
That's the thing. He's still even like, I'm glad to see, and even Y'shtola being worried and whatnot, which is probably the cutest one somehow because Y'shtola doesn't have that kind of emotion often.
Yeah, she's very stern and like serious. She has her moments, but she's very stern. So it's funny when she's like, "Oh no, I was really worried."
Oh god, if only we were talking about 6.1. Hoo boy.
Yeah, just know 6.1 really good. I liked it personally.
Basically, Y'shtola fans eat your heart out. 6.1's good for Y'shtola fans.
I hope you like Sailor Moon.
That too. Anyway.
Anyways, but no, yeah, you're fine. Everyone's crying, but relieved. You go home, and how the fuck does Endwalker end?
I don't know. Like, whenever you first, because what happens is in the first part of the credits cutscene, the ship is kind of going across the sky, and the camera goes to different areas and has a couple or a few NPCs watching. Like, there's one from Ishgard, there's one out in Doma with Hien and Yugiri, which is like the only screen time they had.
Yeah, they were not in Endwalker. To be fair, we had no reason to go to Doma.
True that.
To be fair.
I mean, to be fair, they had some other screen time. They just had no lines.
Yeah, so understandably, it made sense not to put them in there. They didn't force them in there. But if you do the ranged world quest, you do get to see them.
Thank God.
Nice stuff. Yeah, thank God. Honestly, that was actually probably one of my favorite role quests. I actually wasn't too interested in the caster one, personally.
Even though it was Amaric?
I was interested in Amaric, but that was about it.
But yeah, so it does that, multiple things, and the final shot we're left with, us, all of our Scion friends, are walking, and it looks like we're in the Ethereal Sea, and then from the opposite side of us, going to be walking past us, is Emet-Selch, Hythlodaeus, Venat, and Hermes. And I think that's it.
Yeah, and then cross.
Yeah, we all cross. Venat does kind of look back a little bit, and then there's a nice little official artwork that we're left with. That's very nice.
Fair, there is in that part where like we do cross paths, a little bird, a blue bird, flies across.
Yeah, a blue bird flies
Actually,
across.
I remember how Endwalker ends. But you see that, and that's actually because the credits are rolling, and it does a shot where like you were actually watching the bird because you realize it's Medion.
Yep.
And it actually scrolls up with the credits, and it says Warrior of Light, and then your name. Like
Yeah,
your
yeah.
name.
Whenever it's thanking people and whatnot, it says Warrior of Light, and then your character's name and whatnot.
Like right next to you, and honestly, perfect screenshot moment. Everyone has a screenshot.
Perfect screenshot. And
if you don't have a screenshot, go get one.
So now it's like, okay, the world is saved and whatnot, and now it's like, well, what are we gonna do? And so the story becomes the Scions of the Seventh Dawn are going to go back into secrecy. They're not going to be this open, like, yes, we are constantly here kind of deal. The Eorzean Alliance and Doma and everything like that, they can all figure out their stuff, but we'll still be around, just not necessarily in the public eye.
Yeah, like back to what it was.
Back to what the Scions of the Seventh Dawn were originally about.
Which is funny because all your friends were like, yeah, they give their plans like, Estinian's like, oh, I'm gonna go back to Faenir. I want to go help Vitria. Alphino and Alize are like, well, we're gonna go help Julius and the Garlands. We're gonna go help them. Y'shtola's like, I gotta go talk to Master Matoya again.
Yeah, and basically like gain knowledge because there's more stuff she wants to figure out and everything.
Yeah, now that she's aware that all this is happening, she's like, I gotta get all the knowledge I can. I must learn. I want to learn about things. And everyone gives their plans, and then they turn to you, and they're like, but what are you gonna do? Obviously, there's like motion that we're talking. Obviously, you don't give an answer. Which is fair, because who knows, right?
I will say this, though. We do see a bird fly again that looks like Medion.
Yeah,
so.
like the camera like pans out, and like you see a blue bird fly across the screen, and like it kind of follows it, and like shows a view of the Crystal Tower with a bird flying in the distance.
It's like, so good. But yeah, it's literally just, well, I'm an adventurer at heart. It's time to go back to being like an adventurer, not just, I am the hero of Eorzea. I am the hero of the world, warrior of light, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're going back to our roots, is what it's really meant to be at the end of the day. And that
little touch that they did at the end, where after the credits roll, it does the whole like theme, for finale. But then in the corner, if you wait a second, it actually pops up with more text that says something. It's literally saying like some of the lyrics from the nighttime theme of the Crystarium, where it's like, stand tall, my friends. The journey hasn't ended yet.
Yep.
Like, hey, this isn't the end of Final Fantasy XIV. This is just the end of the Hydaelyn and Zodiac saga.
Yep. So now we are in completely new story, moving forward, and that is the end of Endwalker. The opening.
If I'm allowed to be a little sappy, I know we mentioned in our last podcast that part of the stream. Whatever. I mentioned in the last stream that part of the reason that we stopped doing the podcast was because I was having some family issues. Unfortunately, I did have a death in the family. I'm not going to get too sappy about it, but it was actually around the time Endwalker came out. So it was a little depressing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, admittedly, it is kind of one of those, like, yeah, the world sucks. It's true. There's terrible things. There's war. There's disease. People are terrible to each other, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for bad reasons. The world is terrible to everyone, but at the end of the day, there are still things worth living for, even if all this is happening around you.
Yep. There's always a reason to go on. There's always a reason to be there. Yes, Jericho, hearts all around.
Yeah.
I can't have my I can't have my personal made emotes yet in my Twitch, but one day.
Yeah, but
I was about to send my CGS love emote, but I was like, crap, I can't.
No, you're fine. But I mean, even Jerica, I mean, I do live with her. She could tell you, like, yeah, it was something.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so I did not expect us to be streaming for 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Whenever I wrote down our notes for what we were going to be talking about, and by notes I mean just, oh, we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, I was like, like an hour and a half, Meanwhile, 2 hours and potentially 45 minutes later, the sentiment still counts. Yes, it does.
Yeah, thank you, Jerica.
And so, yeah, because I had some other stuff I did want to touch upon with Final Fantasy XIV, but I don't know how much longer we really want to take this on for.
Honestly, I probably need to, go do some stuff real quick. But
Yeah.
no, to be fair, I feel like the jobs need to be its own talk, in my opinion.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We will get to that, though. We will talk about jobs specifically, and we will do another tier list eventually. Because we made a tier list with our original podcast on Spotify. Again, episodes are still up there if you want to hear any of that talk. But
Oh yeah.
but in the meantime, we will talk about the jobs again in Final Fantasy XIV sometime. Because trust me,
yeah.
I have opinions.
I have opinions too, but admittedly, I also need to level some of these classes. I have half the classes leveled, and I refuse to touch the other half because they're usually the classes I never touch. So.
Meanwhile,
that's an issue on me.
I think I have... So, Monk is close to done. And then I have Dark Knight, Gunbreaker, Sage, Astrologian that I still gotta finish.
I feel like it'd be easier for me to name the classes I have leveled. I leveled Red Mage, I leveled Summoner and Scholar by extension. I've leveled Gunbreaker, I've leveled all the range classes, so Dancer, Machinist, Bard. I've leveled Astrologian, Sage. I'm almost done with Reaper. I got 2 levels. And I think... Oh, and Samurai. I did Samurai, because I've done all the role quests. So I have 1 per role, at the very least.
At the very least. But yeah, so I mean, for me, I'm missing 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 1 DPS.
I gotta catch up, damn.
That's the thing. I'm used to running solo stuff a lot. I did that a lot back in the day, so I'm just used to it.
You're gonna have to help me a bit.
I mean, whenever it comes to DPS, especially.
Yeah, can you at least help me with my DPS? maybe help me with my Paladin. I'm still new on this one.
Well, I mean, we're leveling your Paladin with my Astro, I think, right?
Yeah, that's what we were doing last time.
Yeah, and my Monk is with your Reaper, even though my Monk's a little behind in XP.
Well, yeah, but it's okay. Don't worry.
But yeah, ultimately, we're going to finish up this stream, but Final Fantasy XIV is far from over being a topic for us to talk about.
Oh, Man, the amount of things I could talk about with this game.
As far as other topics are concerned, obviously we have to think about what next week's topic will be. Maybe we'll continue Final Fantasy XIV talks, maybe we'll switch it up. To be fair, we have some anime stuff we need to talk about. We will get there. I'm not going to mention anything right now, because it'll be more interesting to figure out later. But we do have some anime stuff we got to talk about too.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, we will get there. I don't know. I think it might be a good idea to do Final Fantasy XIV jobs talk next week, just so that way, back-to-back week topic. That way, stay in the mix.
Yeah, but we'll see. That'll be a discussion for future us.
And again, one more time, the question of the week this week was, what is your favorite Final Fantasy game and why? The tweet is out there, so you can see it and answer there if you really want. Be much appreciated. And because what we will do, we will look at some of the answers next week if we have any.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what other people say.
But alrighty, so anything you specifically want to say?
You should definitely try Final Fantasy XIV, the game with the free. Man, I forgot the name.
You already messed it up. I don't think there's any point in continuing.
Okay, but for real though, there is a free trial if you ever are curious about Final Fantasy XIV. There is no harm in trying it. You don't spend money on it if you do. If you hate it, that's fine. Admittedly, it's not for everyone. But if you are at least a little interested, try it out. Maybe you can find us
Yep.
in game.
And ultimately, obviously, we may not be sponsored or anything like that, but like as a fan of Final Fantasy 14, a player of Final Fantasy 14, a longtime player at that, I'll just go ahead and mention, if you play the free trial and you love it, get it. You just got to realize that it will be a subscription. If you want to do the lower subscription, it is $12.99 a month. If you want to do the other one, it'll be $14.99, so basically like $15.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a very small difference, but if you have the lower tier one, you can have like one character per world. But if you do,
Yeah, you could have 8. You could have 8 of them.
yeah, so, and you can have 8 total. If you do the more expensive one, you can have 8 characters per world, which
Yeah.
is a lot, but up to like 64, I think. It's a massive number.
What? I don't need all those all.
I don't need. Here's the thing. I have the other one, but and I do have multiple characters. But at the end of the day, I also have multiple retainers that I'm paying for. So.
Yeah, but I might need to start doing that, honestly.
Hey, it's an extra $2 per extra retainer.
Well, I'll see. I'll just manage with what I got for now. But regardless, if you are interested, it's fine to try. If it's not your thing, it's okay. You at least gave it a shot.
Final Fantasy XIV is a great overall story. Like, A Realm Reborn, to be fair, they have fixed it a little bit, so I don't know if it's still, like, as... Because the only reason I would say the word bad is because it's slow. There is a big majority of time in A Realm Reborn where the story is just so agonizingly slow. So they've probably fixed that. I could be wrong. Because I know they've done a lot of touch-ups to A Realm Reborn.
That they did.
So, again, but regardless, like, no story can be bam, bam, bam all the time. There's going to be slow parts. But the Final Fantasy XIV story as a whole, overall, is great. Fantastic. Especially these last 2 expansions.
They have been solid. But I feel like we need to cut this off, or else we're going to keep talking for another 2 hours.
I mean, that's the thing. That's the whole reason we ever had the idea for a podcast in the first place. We had the magical ability to talk between each other.
I have a friend that once was like, "How do you do that? Open my mouth and talk?" Yeah, that.
Yeah, that.
I open my mouth and talk.
Plain and simple. But alrighty, so
really, it's not everyone's strength.
But alrighty then. Thank you specifically to Jerica for being here. Definitely most of the stream. Zoe was there at the beginning. I know James is chilling out a little bit. And thanks to anybody else who decided to drop by. I actually got like a follow this stream.
Yeah,
so
we did for it was a bear fan.
It was
right?
a cute bear man.
A cute bear man, yeah. Thank you.
So thank you to whoever that is. Honestly, like, that's awesome.
Thank you very much. It was
and
much
obviously having the follow from Jericho helps out a lot, because again, I got to get up to 50 obviously, but at the end of the day, definitely doing this for fun. But if I can do this for fun and do it more often, would love that shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, this show will probably strictly be weekly, but maybe it could go to 2 episodes a week.
I was about to say, Jerica,
future.
but of course, you live with me. You have no choice.
Right.
You have no choice.
But
alright.
So let's wrap this
Anyways.
one up. Thank you again, everybody, and feel free to follow on Twitter, whether you want to go to my personal one or the actual Age show, which, I mean, to be fair, I might change up a little bit. We'll have to see with the Twitters. I am working on a Discord, so keep out for that.
He's been working on it.
So, but alright then. So everybody have a good time, and we will see you in the next episode.
Alright, see you next time.
Ciao.